Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 7 minutes after 7. How are you doing? Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room. Welcome if you're just joining us on SpiceFM or KTN. Karibu sana. Our live stream is down, but we're working on it and it'll be up shortly. Ndu.
Yeah.
So we have been talking about Standard Chartered's extensive knowledge on matters of wealth.
Yes.
From how you create wealth, you build that wealth and let it grow, and you manage it so that you don't lose it, so that you can then pass it on to who?
The next generation.
Very good.
One would imagine that if you had 110 years of experience, that you then know what you're talking about, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And I think the folks at Standard Chartered have been able to grasp these elements quite some. And so they're saying, you know what, you're in the business of wanting to grow your wealth or even to create some of it and then be able to manage it later. How about you let us hold your hand through the process? So dedicated folks will be able to speak to you about what you should do, how much you should put away, what you can afford, and what you should actually do with your money that would make sense for you into the future. Whether it's looking at education goals for your children, making sure that they can go to the schools whereby you put something away every now and then you can afford it later, whether you want to invest in real estate, whether you want to buy bonds, whether you want to enter into a fund, whatever it is. The folks at Priority Banking were saying, you know what, let's have a conversation and let's make this work for you. You need to take the first step towards getting here. Send an email, prioritybanking.ke@sc.com.
Hey, that's a good one. City. Have you ever heard of an officer called a CXO? You've heard of CEO. You've heard of COO.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You've heard of CFO.
Yes.
CIO, Chief Information Officer. Have you heard of CXO?
I've even heard of CCM.
Even CC. Sawa. Have you heard of CXO?
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah?
No, I haven't.
You haven't heard of CXO?
No, I haven't.
A CXO is build your experience. He's the one who checks whether you come here with a relevant 5-year experience.
That you said.
No, that probably is new terminology for what we used to call an HR. Yes.
So do you think?
I think so because
experience
because
HR.
Somebody who looks at the where-to-force of how an organization functions or that of the individuals in the organization, that's a human resource function. Yes, and that process is an experience after all. Yes. Unless you're telling us that the organization now has
something different.
A social welfare department, and this is the head of social welfare department.
Let us pass this around. What do you think a CXO does?
A CXO. Maybe somebody who ensures that your experience, whether it's from an internal point of view as employees or an external point of view as clients, those who will meet or engage with the organization, that your experience is optimum and efficient from beginning to end.
Okay. You've done well. You've tried.
Thank you.
Let's bring in our guest, Vivian Mwende, who's the head of programs at the Independent Medical Legal Unit. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Latiff.
Very good. What do you think a chief experience officer does?
I think I like what she said, but it's very interesting. We are creating more opportunities and more positions, so I'm worried about that. But I think
you can
somebody
create a
who's
position if you want. Would you want to create one?
No, I think we have
chief head of programs at IMLU.
You can do whatever you want.
I don't know if they think people are lying, that when you come to this particular job, you said you have 5 years of experience, but when you come, it shows you have 2. I don't know.
Martin Mavenjina is the senior program advisor for transitional justice at the Kenya Human Rights Commission. See, that's a big title. And Martin, good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Latiff.
What do you think a CXO does?
I think a CXO is somebody who actually is tasked with ensuring that the people that you manage, the people that are employed in specific entity, gain commendable experience over the years. Yes.
So, according to Google, a chief experience officer drives revenue and growth by making strategic improvements to the company's customer experience and employee experience programs. CXOs, which are also referred to as the Chief Customer Officer or the Chief Customer Experience Officer, sits in the C-suite. It's a Chief Customer Experience Officer.
Good.
Sasa hiyo na hii mambo utaona kwa dunia tu. Now, those people called CXOs, they are meeting. There's a Customer Obsession Leadership Summit.
Oh, there are many.
In 2024. There are many. Building a culture of customer obsession, the HR playbook. Think like a CXO. CX as a revenue accelerator. CX governance, the boardroom blueprint. CX mastery of C-suite executives unlocking leadership. Excellence in digital transformation. Empowering leaders, customer obsession through emotional intelligence. Elevate CX with generative AI. All those things are going to be happening. Who attends? Board members, CXOs, executive management, directors, entrepreneurs, HODs, individuals overseeing customer experience, IT, HR, digital transformation, governance, risk and compliance. Where? At the Current Country Club in Nairobi. When? From the 27th and the 28th of November. That's tomorrow and
The next day.
Thursday. At Current Country Club. Only 45,000 shillings investment for you to have this customer experience investment experience in the journey.
Wow.
Right?
No, what you did right.
Right what? You don't get it? It's the Elevating Customer Obsession Leadership Summit 2024. Some of the big speakers will be Dr. Dorothy Cheyune, who is a CEO, Moyo Experience and best-selling author. Pauline Masharia, CEO and founder of Reimagine Plus. They will be there.
Okay.
Now you get the experience?
We do.
Well,
We get the X now.
Yeah? You got to get the X
We get
now.
the X
Yeah.
now.
Somebody got
Yeah.
the experience, somebody got the X.
Very good. Very good. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
Asante.
Now you are here because we're not bang in the middle, but we have launched the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and your two organizations are really, really, crucial in these parts. IMLU, as Independent Medical Legal Unit, you do a lot of work in the space of rights violation and looking at victims, and also at the Kenya Human Rights Commission. So you've been doing for what, 30 years now?
Yes, 30 years.
Karibuni sana. Siti,
Asante.
why don't you give them the experience?
Let me transport you to a southern African country, one of the smallest countries on the continent, and it's a kingdom. It was formerly called Swaziland. What is it called now? It's a day for questions and answers. It was formerly known as Swaziland. What is it known as now?
Lesotho.
That is a very good attempt.
Lesotho?
At least you're in the general direction of the country. That's good.
Vivian.
Really?
Switzerland.
I think I'll second Lesotho.
Lesotho. It's very good. It's
Switzerland.
Don't listen to Eric. Eric's telling you Switzerland. It is not Switzerland.
You're gaping in a large hole. You're walking to it.
Swaziland is now called Eswatini. Yes, you know that this changes. And we were thinking yesterday that perhaps even Kenya, we need to give ourselves another name.
Should change this name.
Because this name, Kenya,
name
is synonymous with so many negative things. Huh?
Yeah.
You think rebranding helps?
It helps.
Shift Taifa Care?
Yes.
Haven't you seen?
You've not seen now that healthcare is top.
Haven't you seen?
Yeah.
You know, when you call it Taifa Care, it sounds good. You're caring for the nation. Okay?
Even if you're not.
Yes.
Okay.
But the one where you're shafted and sheed, that one wasn't making sense at all.
You're what?
Don't learn a proverb for that.
Right. The proverb. A person born to be a flower pot will not go beyond the porch.
A person born to be a flower pot will not go beyond the porch. Let's start with you, Vivian. What's your interpretation of this proverb?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
My first thinking is that you'll not go beyond your level of thinking. I think that's
Excellent.
really...
Excellent. You've said it simply, beautifully said. Thank you. If you limit your thinking, you limit whatever destination you may think you'll reach.
Yeah.
Very good.
Martin.
Well, my interpretation of that is if you don't strive hard in life, then you can't succeed.
If you don't strive hard in life, you
Yes.
can't succeed.
Yeah, simply put, hard work pays. So if you don't work hard, then you may not see any tangible results.
But if you're born as a flower pot, whatever, how much harder do you want to work? Be a metallic one?
Well, it simply means that if you're born in a flower pot, what that will mean is that you're used to soft life. But when you get out and face the realities of the world here, then things may actually turn out to be so different.
Isn't
so you
that
cannot.
a wonderful interpretation.
Yes, you can't stay in a flower pot forever.
You know, the beauty of these interpretations is someone comes up with something you couldn't have seen. Thank you. Spot on, both of you.
Completely.
Yes.
So what are these 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, Vivian? When do they start? When do they end?
So that starts on the 25th of November and it ends on the 10th of December. And I know probably it has grown popular of recent days, but it began some years back. It began in 1991. And that's because they felt there's need for us to have lots of gender-based advocacy work going around. And so the 25th of November is normally known as the International Day on Elimination of Violence Against Women. So starts on that day, ends on the 10th of December, which is the International Human Rights Day. So in total number is 16 days of activism. It is internationally led by civil society organizations, either within their countries or also across borders. Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And every year there's a theme.
Yes.
Just like with all international days.
Yes.
So what's the theme for this year?
This is Unite against violence against women. So #Unite, and the agenda is by 2030 to be able to eliminate all forms of gender-based violence. That's the angle and that's the direction.
We keep talking about this all the time, Martin, and we keep saying so. Every year we are saying we are eliminating violence against women, right? Gender-based violence, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And we have 5 years to go. In Kenya, there's been a presidential commitment, that we shall eliminate gender-based violence by 2026. How are we doing on that, Martin?
Thanks for that question, Latiff. I think as a country, we are not doing so well in terms of eliminating all forms of gender-based violence against women. And that is primarily, when you look at the numbers, between 2016 and 2022, about 520 women lost their lives to gender-based violence. Now, if you look at the statistics of this year alone, about 98 women have lost their lives to gender-based violence. And in terms of progressive pieces of legislation, most of the legislation that we have in place to prevent gender-based violence is basically broad, but we do not have a specific piece of legislation that actually criminalizes femicide. And in terms of accountability, there have not been enough strides made as a country in trying to hold perpetrators to account. So when you look at the timeline of 2026 and the stark realities that we're looking at right now, I don't think we're doing so well as a country. And whereas you said there was a presidential directive, including, I think, the promise of, the president donated, about 100 million or something or thereabout. I mean, you have to ask yourself, the question I asked myself when I saw the president, making the donation is, will 100 million eradicate, the issue of gender-based violence comprehensively? As a country, I think we need to allocate more funding to the issue of gender-based violence. There's a lot to be done, but it starts with policy. As a country, we need to come up with, a robust legal framework that actually, a robust legal framework that is actually implemented, and we have to also address the accountability question, because without addressing the accountability question, then you will have, these cases, rising year in, year out.
Why is it so difficult? Because this is one for me, is one of those under the foot kind of wounds that you can't really let it dry, because you have to use the foot every day, isn't it? And that there's the law, there is legislation, there is government, but at the same time, a lot of these the perpetrators think of it, or that perform these acts really, in many times are not held to account. So you can have the law and you can have the framework. That's over here.
Yes.
But those who perpetrate the acts are over here. why is it so difficult to say, even if you say we're going to end it by what is supposed to be done to end it? Because you can have a legal framework, but the person who's beating up, or the person who is murdering, or the person who's doing whatever is over here. Your framework and you can be over here. But this is happening here. How do we connect the two?
Yes, thanks for that question, Du. I think it's it's actually not extremely difficult, in my opinion. The elephant in the room is this lack of political goodwill from the current government, and even you look at subsequent governments. And the reason why I say that is, you have to ask yourself, what are those efforts that the government of Kenya has made to eradicate gender-based violence? When I mentioned the accountability question, we have to ask ourselves, how many perpetrators of gender-based violence have been held to account within our courts of law today? Coupled with that, there is the aspect of the fact that some of these cases, even against suspects who have been, who are facing trials regarding gender-based violence, these trials, in certain instances, take an inordinate period of time. So, and then there's also the aspect of the digital age, because most of this violence is actually the digital age, in as much as it's an enabler for different issues. Perpetrators have used the digital platforms to lure women, and actually that has given them a leeway of kind of, that has given them unfettered discretion to actually continue perpetrating these crimes. And lastly, the fact that I think there's also laxity with our law enforcement agencies. I just believe, in all due honesty, somebody is not doing the work. And the reason why I say that is because when you look at the budgetary allocations year in, year out, defense always gets the largest share. And our defense and the defense budget is the National Police Service, the National Intelligence Service, and the National Police Service. So we must ask ourselves the hard question. We have a National Police Service that is 100,000 strong. Why do we keep on seeing, rising cases of gender-based violence? If you remember, I told you the statistics between 2016 to 2022 was 570. In this year alone, we haven't even finished the year. We're at 98. So there is a possibility that those numbers could actually even go higher. So from where I see it, I feel like I don't think our law enforcement agencies are doing enough, because they are capable of actually comprehensively dealing with this crime of the crime of femicide and broadly gender-based violence.
Why is it that every time we talk about gender-based violence, we immediately go to security forces? Why? Is it their job? Is it their mandate to deal with these issues?
I think it's their mandate also, but also it's also you and I's mandate. And the law that I really like is the Protection Against Domestic Violence. And what that says, it gives your neighbor, your next door neighbor, the power to also go and report on your behalf. You see, normally people say that I keep hearing my neighbor is being hit, being assaulted by the husband, being assaulted by the lover, ex-lover. You have that mandate according to the law, that you yourself, in the Nyumba Kumi, you can actually go to the police station and say, I've been telling this person to report this, probably the ex-lover, and they have not. Now I think it's important that the law enforcement take this responsibility. But this is also to mention, and I think one of the areas that she's mentioned is, on the other hand, there are the perpetrators, and the other hand, there are victims as well. There's a lot of shame also that comes with this aspect of gender-based violence, because people feel that this exposes me so much. Most we know that are happening to women, so they feel that I don't need to report it. This person probably knows a couple of people even in the law enforcement, but I do feel that if people around your neighborhood, if you yourself can take that action and say, let's end gender-based violence, then of course the police will be like, okay, this 10 people have come to report this person, let's register this case.
Let me take a step back. In an African society, in African communities around Kenya, do people actually object and abhor violence against women?
I think they do.
Then why is it that gender-based violence is on the increase? If there's something that they do not like, they do not tolerate. Why?
I still feel that people they don't tolerate, but they don't speak out, they don't tolerate it.
That is tolerating.
Yeah.
Because the things that we do not like, or the things that we feel strongly about, we tend to speak.
Exactly.
We tend to act.
Exactly.
Take, for example, what it is that Kenyan parents do for their children. There is nothing a Kenyan parent will not do for their children. They will sell, they'll work 24 hours, they'll do anything. So it's demonstrated. And they will also ensure that the children are safe. So now, we go back to gender-based violence. We say we don't like it, we think it is negative. How exactly do we treat this thing which we say is negative, this thing we do not like? We tolerate it, we give it space, and in some communities it is even normalized. It is considered to be okay. Now, if the environment in which it thrives is one way it is tolerated, anyone growing in that environment will grow up believing that this is something you can tolerate, and in tolerating it is something you can perpetrate.
Yeah, definitely. It's normal.
Yes.
It's normal.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point, because then that, of course, leads us to conversation as early childhood marriages,
Yes.
leads us to conversation as female genital mutilation
Yes.
aspects, because they say this is cultural. I
Yes.
think we have used culture to cover for violence against women
Yes.
cases.
Yes.
I guess, and that's uncalled for. And I like the theme of this year because it talks about unite. Let's unite, right? And uniting means you putting down what you think is normal to you. Let's unite to what Martin has mentioned about what the law requires of us, because culture in the sense is tolerating and allowing violence against women to seem normal, yet it's not, right? And I think femicide cases is what now we are seeing. And for a long period of time, it was not known exactly what name to give it. But now, over the last couple of years, I think WHO, I think that was 2020, they mentioned and said, femicide is the killing of women just because they are women, based on their gender.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the rising cases of femicide that we have seen, and I think this question has come up regularly, do we see that people who are dying or who are being killed happen to be women? Or are these people being killed because they are women?
Thanks for that question, Du. So when you look at the statistics in the past couple of years, the majority of those who are killed are actually women and young girls. And the context in which they're killed is in context of whereby either they're in a relationship but it clearly points that they're actually killed for in specifically that specific context. So so it's and from where we see it, it's really quite unfortunate that in this day and age that many young girls and women are losing their lives unlawfully in that context. And unfortunately for Kenya, for instance, this year alone, we have lost 98 women and young girls. And in any way, in a progressive democracy, that is not something that should happen. And even when you look at these 98 lives that have been lost, to date, nobody has actually, been fully held to account for. Most of the suspects are either in courts of law or following the judicial process, and yet we have cases on the cases of femicide on the increase. And that is despite the fact that since the beginning of this year, there's been a lot that has been done by civil society organizations in terms of advocacy. There was a huge march that was done between early January, February, thereabout. So there's been that effort of sensitization and engaging with members of the public just to let them know that, violence against women is actually not accepted, and it's not in any democratic society. It's not.
Allow me to hold on to that femicide issue just for a minute, because essentially what we are saying, if we take these 98 cases into consideration,
yes,
and again going back to that question, that are they being killed because they are women? It's not necessarily the physiological makeup, but we look at the attributes around that relationship or around that circumstance. And by virtue of the fact that they were in a relationship or somebody took another lover, for example, the circumstances around that are the attributes of being a woman. And that is what led to the violence that we are speaking of. Are we looking at what would have been the reasoning around why this life was taken? There was jealousy. I was not able to provide. There was something that would link you directly to being a woman that caused that death to take place. Because we're not saying that there is hate for the gender, are we? No, we're saying that there's a circumstance around this relationship that caused that death or that violence to happen, isn't it?
I will think so, because most of the cases, maybe just to take a back and go to January. If you remember how we began the year, I mean, we began it on a very low note, high levels cases of femicide. And let me just pick a case of Mwini's case. Dr. Johansen, after doing the postmortem, he mentioned that I have never seen this form of case. Why? Because this deceased lady who was murdered, brutally murdered, let me say, the fingernails, the perpetrator tried to remove the fingernails. And so he's saying, I've never seen this like this before. It is so brutal. You could say that is more targeted. Then let's proceed and move on to the quarry cases. You remember the extractions of bodies from the quarry. And as an institution, as IMLU, we were able to do postmortems of all these cases. So what do the postmortem tell us? That there are 11 females, right, who were dumped and brutally murdered. If you go to the manner in which they murdered, or what could have preceded the murdering, you find that they say that their vaginal, there was a swollen vaginal with, at the right hand, there was a way in which the victim was trying to fight back. So you can see that probably there was gender-based violence that preceded the femicide, right? Mm-hmm. And so we may think that it began this year, but I think the UNODC and the UN Women 3 years ago, they said Africa has the highest number of femicide cases, but Kenya has 47% contributed to that number. So still, I still think that Kenya is way behind. Also in terms of policy, because there's no policy that now mentions femicide. So it's still treated as a normal homicide case. Yet, if it could be the male gender, probably it was just murder, right? But in a case where there's a woman, then there was something else that preceded the murder. So there's probably what we call sexual torture.
Let's take a break. It's 26 minutes to 8. We're getting to that controversial nice. It's boiling nicely. Martin Mavenjina is a senior program advisor for transitional justice at the Kenya Human Rights Commission, and Vivian Mwende is the head of programs at the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU. We are marking 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which began yesterday, running until the 10th of December, the International Human Rights Day. Ndu,
yes.
The holiday season is here.
Yes, it is.
Okay? Mm-hmm. Several things are happening. So you have to think about your entertainment for your entire family.
Yes.
And people nowadays don't have to sit in front of a screen so that they can enjoy entertainment. No. You can have a small screen wherever you are.
You can take your screen with you, exactly. And what are you going to watch when you do? Showmax is offering some great entertainment over this festive period, but at the same time, as usual, as they do. So there are 2 shows that I want you to watch. One is called Foreplay. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's 4 gentlemen who are running through the machinations of Nairobi's concrete jungle. I call that the gutter as well. Nairobi's concrete jungle, and it's different things that they have to do, the relationships that they get into, the business that they get into, the things that they do. And it's already started to air on Showmax, so you can catch up with some of those episodes. And isn't that the great thing, that you can go back, catch up where you missed, and then wait for the new ones that are going to come in. There's also another one called Black and Blue. Again, this goes through all the intrigues of police officers, and from their point of view, the different things that they have to go through. There's great entertainment on Showmax. For as little as 300 shillings every month, you can get into great entertainment. And like I said, you can take your entertainment with you. You don't have to be plonked on the couch in front of the TV. When you're on that road trip this season, you can be watching before you get where you're going. Showmax.com. Shika na Showmax.
Kabisa. And this one Martin and Vivian will obviously enjoy. Black and Blue Kwanza. It's about cops.
Yes.
It's following the lives of police officers in Nairobi.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Something else is happening. Okay, it's a festive season, Vivian.
Yes.
And you've heard of Woolworths.
Yes.
Sindio?
Yes.
And you know Woolworths, the shop.
Definitely.
Now, you've also heard of Black Friday.
Yes.
Black Friday is a season for sale.
Yeah.
So between tomorrow, the 7th?
Yeah.
No, actually from today, the 26th, up to the 2nd of December, which will be what day? Sunday. Monday, right? Walk into Woolworths. Go anywhere. Pick any 3 items.
Latiff atalipa.
You'll pay for 2. I will pay for 1. You pay for 2. Sawa.
Sawa.
Anywhere. You go. Get 3 for the price of 2. 1, just tell them, I'm here in Alipo Eric. Yeah. Dress the whole family at any of the Woolworths stores countrywide. Get your entire family styled up for your home, looking elegant for less during the Black Friday deals. Scare that, Martin. So walk into Woolworths today, over this weekend, and go early. I'd tell you, go today. Because by the time you're getting there on Sunday, all the good stuff. So you have more variety, wider variety if you started today, right? Okay. It's a Woolworths Black Friday deal. 23 minutes to 8. Keep it here. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
A sunny morning in Nairobi, 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15. Highs of 23 and lows of 14 in a partly sunny Nakuru. It's 15 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 22 in a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 14. Sunny conditions at 26 in Mombasa with highs of 32, and Malindi will go to highs of 32 and lows of 25. It's 21 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 27, and at 17, Kakamega is sunny, going to highs of 25 and lows of 16. Kampala at 18 is sunny with highs of 27, and Dar es Salaam at 25 is sunny, going to highs of 31 and back down to lows of 25. 20 and sunny in Johannesburg with highs of 29, and we're looking at sunny conditions at 28 in Mogadishu, going to highs of 32. We'll see highs of 23 in a sunny Addis Ababa at 12, coming down to lows of 10. Lagos is clear at 25 with highs of 33, and the rain showers continue in Kinshasa, currently at 24, going to highs of 28 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
All right, the Thika Superhighway, quite some traffic this morning, but just coming in from Garden City, not too crazy. As you pass that Outer Ring Junction, you're going to go all the way through towards Pangani with some traffic, and it'll be slow, but it's moving, but at some parts we're at a standstill. Kiambu Road is not looking too bad as you come through towards Muthaiga Square. You're all going to meet as you get towards the CBD. James Gishuru has already packed up. We're getting that as you go towards Waiakiwe, and some of that inbound traffic from Red Hill Link Road towards Waiakiwe has started to build up as well. We will see that traffic coming in hot on Limuru Road, coming in from United Nations Avenue. This whole Kitisuru area is going to be a bit crazy. Uhuru Highway already packing up, and we know that in a day or two it's going to shut down because of the construction. But for now, it's going to be busy. Uhuru Highway from the Nyayo Stadium roundabouts through towards the city. It's going to probably be that way for most of today. Keeping an eye on things, help us out here. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
In our conversation, it's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Our guests are Vivian Mwende, Head of Programs at IMLU, and Martin Mavinjina, Senior Program Advisor for Transitional Justice at the Kenya Human Rights Commission. We were at that point where we were, it's always that thin line in defining what is gender-based violence and what is just other violence, right? How does it qualify to be gender-based violence? And that's what Ndu kept asking. So do we contextualize it and say it is because this person hated you as because of your gender, or they did this to you because of your gender? If you think about all the other forms of violence between human beings are constantly in some sort of scuffle or the other, whether you're just fighting among men or among women, you know, man fighting, woman fighting. Because we interact as human beings, we are bound to have conflict, and those conflicts do happen. Some of them are listed in law as these ones are. You actually go astray of the law. But at what point then does it become gender-based violence? It can't be because the two of you are in a house together and you are male and she's female and you fought, then that has become gender-based?
No. It all goes back to the power dynamics. Mm-hmm. And power, just not because you are physically strong, but probably because you also hold a higher position as opposed to the other person. And of course, that comes in the question like sexual harassment, for example, at the workplace. Your supervisor, this is an intern, power dynamics. In the house, this person feels I am more superior than you in physics, for example. So then I'm able to hurt you and there's nothing you're going to do about it. Power dynamics, I know
But in any kind of violence, there's going to be power dynamics.
Yeah.
A big guy like Martin, I can't beat him. He'll beat me.
Sure.
So?
Yeah, and it also draws down to the forms, again, of gender-based violence. Aspects like rape, gang rape, right? Female genital mutilation. I mean, this has not happened to maybe the male gender, FGM. Early child marriages. Young girls are being taken and being, the bride price is being paid at the age of 16, at the age of 15, right? Just for the family to get more income. I mean, it also draws down to then what are the forms that leads us to gender-based violence.
Okay.
Well, young boys are subjected to hard labor by their family members. We also call that gender-based violence.
But that isn't violence.
No,
Because we've talked about...
That's child labor.
No, that's child labor.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same thing. Yeah. FGM is FGM. Early marriage is early marriage. Is it GBV?
Actually, no.
Early marriage is not... actually, when you look at the laws of the land, early marriage is actually not permissible under our laws. You are only allowed to marry once you attain the age of 18. So
neither is child labor allowed in law.
Yeah, so same to child labor. It's also not acceptable or permitted within the laws of our land. So when you look at some of these retrogressive practices in some of in some retrogressive cultural practices, yes, there are some tribes that continuously practice them, but over the years, civil society organizations have tried to work closely and try to bring an end to this. Of course, the government has put in a few policy and legal frameworks to try to deal with the issue of child labor or early marriages. But when it comes to gender-based violence, Latiff and City and Do, there is no specific piece of legislation that actually criminalizes the crime of, that provides for the crime of genocide. The pieces of legislation that are there in Kenya, like the Sexual Offences Act, are actually broad, so that it's broad application to all Kenyans, all of us here, and that may explain why there are increased cases of gender-based violence. Because if there is no framework of actually holding you to account for a specific crime, then it simply means that you cannot actually...
Can I push this envelope a little bit?
Yes, you cannot deter people from actually continuously committing that.
Probably one of the reasons is because we just can't seem to completely agree what GBV is. We keep mixing things up. So, for example, you've quoted the case of that very, very unfortunate case of that young girl.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Mweni.
Right? Murdered in the most brutal way.
Yeah.
By this person, whatever they did. Can we say that she was killed because she's a woman?
And of course, it draws back to, and what I think was mentioned by City before, what preceded, what was happening before. It was an ex-lover, right? Probably they had some issues about this person now has moved on, has another partner, and it's a moment of speaking and arguing, and then that happens. Another situation of, you are the father of my children, you need to provide for your children, even though you've proceeded on with your life. So again, it brings up a situation whereby the woman feels that you've now left me with the children, which is probably the most cases. So now then who is going to provide for them? Again, provides a scenario whereby now you can argue, you can have a heated conversation, like all people do. But now because there is also power dynamics, there is also an aspect of we were once together, right? Now you have proceeded and you seem, and of course the lady would be like, now you're proceeding, you've left me with the children, and now you can freely move. Well, I'm here being held back and having to provide. I don't have the financial muscle like you do. Again, which is the Kenyan situation. Then it opens a box whereby gender-based violence can happen. And then, is it a scenario that is a touch and go? No. In fact, research has showed that most women undergo what we call cycle of violence 7 times for them to come out. And the cycle of violence is where it happens, right? And then you go to a point where the perpetrator says, oh, so sorry that happened. Please don't report me or not do this again. And so you have what the cycle of violence reaches to honeymoon stage. Everything is fine. People see you holding hands together, and your neighbors will see you fighting, and then you're like, oh, these people. And then there's always that saying of people who are on the same bed, right? So again, the cycle of violence continues. Then all of a sudden, the perpetrator changes. You start walking to what we call the stage of eggshells. So now you're worried. You're like, oh my God, I don't want this to happen again, because it has happened again. And then the perpetration now happens. The offense happens. Maybe it's assault, the psychological and the emotional abuse, whatever abuse it is. That is the first cycle. So the research shows that this particular woman undergoes 7 times that cycle before they actually go to the next police station and say, guys, I have been undergoing gender-based violence. So even as we see women report, there is so much that they have undergone before. 7 cycle. And the 7 cycle can be 1 year, can be 6 years, can be 20 years. And of course, as a society, we are like, hey, come out of that marriage. Hey, come out of that relationship.
But you know something?
Yeah.
You paint a picture that explains what we are talking about with clarity.
Yeah.
But I'd like us to take just a step back. What is it that were the influences in these two people's lives? What is it that molded them to become the people they are? We talk about social norms, societal influences, and so forth. But we look at a country like ours, and you look at some of the things that have been inherent. There are communities that feel they were discriminated against. There are people who feel that they were never given a fair shake of it. There are people who feel that their poverty is as a result of the government they've elected mismanaging their resources. There are communities who feel everything that I've just said and they feel it is them. Now, if you grow up in whatever community with this particular feeling, you've actually been violated and you probably don't know. You've actually been brutalized, but you actually don't know. So your natural reaction when something doesn't work is to do the same as was done to you. You brutalized. This is something that researchers have found over and over and documented, and then some. But look at what is happening now and look at the correlation of the brutalization that has been brought about by the socio-economic situations we have in this country, and the direct correlation with what we see as these violent episodes that when we look at the sum total, we say it's against women. Why? People who are brutalized focus on people who are weaker, not stronger. People who are disadvantaged, people who are dependent, because some of this violence is also directed at children.
Yeah.
Now, if we focus on what we see and we do not give adequate attention to why it is what it is, because this situation is escalating, it's accelerating, it's not going down.
Exactly.
Agreed.
So if I may, CT, while I do agree, while I partly agree with you that yes, I mean the context in which we all citizens or all Kenyans grow, and you may indirectly face some forms of violation. The stark reality is that when people grow up in different environments and different backgrounds. Now, a man and a woman are brought together by basically, they're attracted to one another through, let's say, basically by emotions. So you start a relationship, and then before you know it, things go haywire. But in most instances, most of these cases actually, in fact, I think maybe there are certain instances, maybe 5 or 10%, whereby you have somebody who is just obsessed about, committing crime. For instance, if you look at the quarry killings that Vivian had mentioned, and the suspect that was arraigned, we were meant to believe that this is somebody who used to lure women and just, kill them, not necessarily having a relationship with them. So in society, there could be those bad apples, whereby there's somebody who's just obsessed about, preying on women and actually ending their lives. But the bulk of the gender-based violence cases usually emanate from a relationship. There must be a relationship of some sort that actually goes haywire at some point in time. So, but that cannot be attributed to the different violations that maybe the country has subjected us to. Because
why not?
That's primarily because, yes, in as much as the Constitution places a burden on the state, to ensure to ensure that all Kenyans enjoy all the rights that are enshrined under Chapter 4. I mean, there's that degree of expectation that you would expect a country to do, or there's a degree of things that you'd expect them to do. They cannot, outrightly deal with all our problems comprehensively, or all the problems that many people in society face comprehensively. But there must be progression. But when you look at the stark reality that we face in Kenya here is there's, if you remember Ali said, there's lack of political will. From where I sit, I want to believe that if the government woke up today and said, moving forward, we are going to comprehensively deal with sexual and gender-based violence or gender-based violence, then that is a thing that they can comprehend.
May I? Sorry.
Sure.
I think that and maybe you can help me out. I think that if government woke up one day and said that we are going to comprehensively deal with a mental health issue that we have in the country, I think that would be a marked, significant difference from what we see. Because I have to go to maybe a few years ago when we saw rampant cases of women who were taking manhood, who were cutting off men's manhood, right? They were cutting them off. There were men who died. There were men who were rendered literally dead because of what was happening. It was rampant. You have an argument with a man, you get a knife, the next thing, it's gone. Right? What did we label that? What did we label that? Did we start to say that there's an increase of violence against men perpetuated by women? And were we now saying that men were dying because they are men? So when we look at this gender picture, how are we looking at it? And I think the things that cause a lot of the violence that we see is not necessarily because people woke up one day and said, I'm going to wield an axe. I think they're compacted mental health issues that are affecting people, and you will take it out on the weaker individual at that moment in that relationship. We can talk about government and legal frameworks, but I think that there's a lot of unpacking on the social point that we have to do. In fact, whether it is in school, whether it is in social groups, taking the mental health issue into because police can shoot guns for years.
We'll come up with all the laws.
We can come up with laws. But you can imagine a boy or a girl who's grown up seeing violence every single day. What do you think they're going to do when they grow? Well, or are faced with a situation whereby it's the only way out?
Yeah, that's partly right, too. But you see, the sad, the long and short of it is that, again, the state cannot abdicate its duty to its citizens. Violence can only happen on a daily when the state has actually deliberately decided to abdicate its duties. There is a question that City asked earlier. Why do we why do we think this is an obligation of the police? Now, when you look at our constitution, the police is primarily tasked with maintaining law and order. That is why all of us citizens pay taxes. That is why every 5 years we elect leaders to serve for and on behalf of their citizens. And by doing so, they are given a specific obligation to ensure that all of us are actually, have a good governance structure, that we are all safe and secure. So it can't be that, we have elected leaders, you have citizens paying taxes, and then you still want to place that obligation on the very citizens who are actually paying taxes and who have actually elected leaders to actually serve in different positions. So the long and short of it is that those tasked with those in positions of authority cannot actually abdicate that duty, because they must ensure that all Kenyans are able to be in a safe and secure environment. Because if we go on like because the long and short of it is, if we proceed like this, then you must ask yourself, in all due honesty, who actually is sleeping on the job?
Martin,
right?
the law will not solve this issue.
No, it's not the law. We are talking about those with, you see, those when you have a duty to perform a certain, yes.
Those who have a duty are the police.
Yes.
How are we dealing with FGM? We have a law on FGM. How are we doing? The police, the Ngaos are there with FGM. How are we doing? I keep arguing, we don't look back at why do communities continue practicing FGM?
Because
with high literacy levels in this country.
Yeah.
And you will find even people who are exposed to some level of education would still go back and practice FGM. We don't ask ourselves those questions. Same thing, we're not asking ourselves, so what is this GBV? The victim, like you've said, it's power.
Yeah.
Are we saying that this violence only happened from one person to the weaker person? Or was it happening among the two, but then the stronger person prevailed? What is it that's happening in this home that is leading to this kind of violence? Is it only one directional?
Thank you for bringing the name home, because gender is not sex, right? Gender is the roles and responsibilities, right? Based on your sex. So as you grow up, you are given, probably when you are playing with the boys around your neighborhood and your girls, it is automatic that the girl will be told, start cooking at that corner. The boys are going to fetch some water for you, or alternatively from other areas, the woman or the young girl is told, please take the water and come and cook. And these are kids, and the parents comfortably will say that, yeah, you guys just play, and no, let him drive. He's done to drive, but you girls stay back at home. So these people grow up, right? And then now they find themselves in that house, either as boyfriend and girlfriend, for example. And then, of course, the financial muscle comes in, whereby it's almost automatic that you're the one now to go out and look for that. Go out and look for the food of this house. Then I'll remain and take care of the children. And that's why later then, take back to what I was mentioning, this woman is finding herself, most instances, having to speak and to say that, what do I do with these children whom now you've left me with? Maintenance issues around emotional torture, trying to gaslight you, and of course the mental issues, it's agreeable. But let's not give a reason as to why gender-based violence should happen.
No, we should. We should seek to explain why it's happening.
Yes,
we
exactly.
can't run away from it.
Yeah.
Well, this conversation must continue for the next 14 days. Today is the second of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. What is it? Why do we see it happening? Why do we see a rise in cases of gender-based violence, even femicide in this country? Martin Mavinjina is a senior program advisor in charge of transitional justice at Kenya Human Rights Commission. Vivian Mwende is head of programs at the Independent Medical Legal Unit. It's 8 a.m. Time for the news.
Spice up your life.
This is the News Wire. I'm La Ubaga. Two suspected drug traffickers who were arrested after they were found in possession of cocaine and several rolls of bang will be arraigned this morning. The two, Anthony Ndirangu and Sabiri Kaliche, were arrested by detectives at a petrol station in Ruiru near the Eastern Bypass, where they'd parked their Toyota Vanguard waiting for a potential buyer. On interrogation, it was established that they were peddling the cocaine at 2,800 per gram and were set to make at least 504,000 from the sales. The National Assembly is set to consider the nomination of Abdi Ahmed Mahmoud for the position of Secretary, Chief Executive Officer of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, informed the House of a message from the EACC seeking parliamentary approval for the appointment pursuant to Section 16(1) of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act and Section 5(1) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Removal Act. The Speaker directed the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to immediately commence the approval process, notify the nominee and the public of the hearing schedule, and table its report on or before Tuesday next week. If approved, he'll succeed his former boss, Twali Mbarak, whose term at the Commission ends in January next year. Some governors have threatened to halt all activities in the counties if Treasury does not release the county funds within the next 30 days. Speaking at Mumias in Kakamega County, the governors led by Kakamega Governor, who is also the chairman of the Finance Committee in the Council of Governors, Fernandes Baraza, Kisii Governor Simba Arati, Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza, Trans Nzoia's George Natembe and West Pokot Governor Simon Kachapin have said some government officials are plotting to paralyze devolution. They said some projects have stalled due to lack of funds.
Treasury itakana kuwa independent of the national government. Kwa sababu inakaa kwamba waziri akisema nimepeana counties pesa, ni kama anatoa pesa kwa mfuko yake, ni kama ni favor anatufanyia. Sisi kama Council of Governors, ile azima ambayo tulitoa kwamba kama tupate fedha in the next 30 days, we are going to close down county. And that's going to be done.
All the constitutional officers must do their duties effectively. You cannot be the controller of budget. We are also behaving like ESCC. We are also behaving like the Auditor General. You are behaving like wewe polisi wa counties 47. We want efficiency in the office of the controller of budget. Right now we are having here the 11th edition of Kikoska na counties zote ambazo zimekuja hapa hawajapata pesa.
Ile tumeona hivi majuzi ni kunyima pesa makaunti, na National Treasury inatangaza kwamba pesa imepatwa na makaunti, lakini ukweli ni wa mambo kwamba tangu mwaka huu uanze makaunti hawajapata pesa.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is investigating a 2 billion embezzlement scandal at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University in Sigei County. The EACC has revealed that construction payments were made without the projects being completed and that the perpetrators doubled the amount of money required. According to EACC documents, the case also involves the scandal of over 200 students being awarded master degrees without graduating.
Most of these problems are caused by serious leadership and governance problems involving collusion with the university officials, that is the former Vice Chancellor, the former Deputy Vice Chancellor, and the 4 other officials. We want to challenge the Ministry of Education also to strengthen frameworks for management of quality and standards in higher education, because the investigations that have been undertaken are indicating gaps.
How can this be changed? That is something that troubles us as an agency of government that has been tasked with the responsibility of fighting corruption and standing against evils.
However, the university's management claims to have not received a report from the EACC regarding the investigation, especially on the matter where students were awarded master's degrees without graduating. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. Yeah. It is very, very skewed.
We just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's busy in the city, but, all manageable for now. And maybe in some parts, not so much. James Gishoro, in and outbound is crazy. The Red Hill Link Road coming in this way from Lower Kabete towards Wayaki Way is already starting to pack up. But then look at Lower Kabete going towards Spring Valley, and we're looking at this whole Limuru Road coming in from Thigiri Ridge down through Red Hill and then out towards Muthaiga. Absolutely crazy, both directions. People are going much slower than they normally should. Not quite sure what's causing all of this madness, but it's madness all the same. Muranga Road going towards the Globe Cinema roundabout, extremely busy. Uhuru Highway is taking on all of this, and it's going to be very slow getting into the CBD. Langata Road is also packing up as you then go through past Rilo Dinga Way and then out towards Uhuru Highway. That's very busy. A look at the Eastern Bypass shows us that traffic is going to continue for a minute. And it's heavy as you get towards North Airport Road and to the Cabanas interchange. But let's watch all this and see. We are in traffic hour. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yeah. So are you ready to elevate customer obsession with the Leadership Summit this year? This is for all CXOs, customer experience officers, building a culture of customer obsession, the HR playbook, thinking like a CXO. That's CX, customer experience, as a revenue accelerator, CX in governance. And what did we say customer experience is? A chief experience officer is one that drives revenue and growth by making strategic improvements to the company's customer experience and employee experience programs. CXOs are also referred as chief customer officer or the chief customer experience officer in an organization. They will be meeting at their current country club from tomorrow, the 27th, and also the 28th at the current country club for this Elevating Customer Obsession Leadership Summit. Key speakers, Dr. Dorothy Cheyune, who is a CEO, Moyo Experience and best-selling author, and Pauline Masharia, CEO and founder of Reimagine Plus. More information and details, you can get them on info@reimagineplus.com or official Pauline Masharia. You can email her, or also you can get all the details on their website. Okay, that is Reimagine Plus. Ndu.
Yes.
Si hii mambo yote tunaongea, it all comes down to one email address.
One email address. And it's one that you need to remember. So imprint on your mind, prioritybanking.ke@sc.com. What's that going to do for you? Well, when you do that, open the email, write the email, and you put that address in, it's going to go to folks who then will be able to give you a call or say, come, let's reason together, says Standard Chartered Priority Banking. Because you're going to ask questions about how do I then create, how then do I manage, how then do I grow what? Your wealth. And they will be right there to be able to walk you through this journey towards this satisfaction that you seek over time. It's the folks at Standard Chartered Priority Banking. They've been doing it for a good 110 years in 55 unique markets around the world. The world, not your world, the actual world.
The global world.
Yes. And they can actually help you walk through this. So remember, it's prioritybanking.ke@sc.com.
Right. So let's talk about health research. And we've hosted this gentleman here with us before, Professor Sam Kinyanjui, who is the head of training at the Kemri Wellcome Trust program. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
I'm very good.
You are?
Yeah.
You don't sound it, Bana. What song?
Niko sawa.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Now you've come there.
In fact, I was saying I think I might look for a job here. I've been here so often now.
You mean they haven't offered you a job yet?
So, imagine.
No, actually, sorry, maybe it's because I overheard something. just ngoja utapigiwa simu.
Sawa.
But act surprised when they do. When they do, act surprised. Okay? Yeah, you just don't know. You didn't know about it.
Yeah.
You mean you guys? Oh. Okay, we are going to talk about the steps in health research. You were here before, in the last time we were talking about the IDEAL program and what you and other researchers are doing in terms of just bringing together many people who would be interested in research and showing them that research is actually a good thing to be involved in, and particularly health research.
Yes.
But then we also don't understand this health research thing. What's it all about? Okay. For example, the other day we had 2 scientists who are commencing some groundbreaking research on trying to understand the impact of climate change on our health systems. And we're calling it what? New risk.
New risk, yes.
Right? And we're like, okay, so where does it begin? Where does it end? At what point did you guys think about this? Then how do you go about it? And then how shall that research then become useful? All those steps. You'll take us through them today. City will take us through the steps of understanding a kingdom, the last absolute monarchy in Africa. It is.
Northern Africa have some fairly absolute monarchies.
Those ones are not last absolute monarchies.
Believe me, even when they call them an absolute monarchy, it's not entirely true, because the moment you have a parliament, you have a lower house, you have an upper house, you have a prime minister. No, you actually can't refer to it as absolute. Monarchs tend to have advisors and they stop there.
Bas.
Yes.
What's the structure of government in this country that you are taking us to this week?
Well, they have they have a king.
Okay.
Okay, now everything, plenipotentiary, etc. Then they have a queen mother. Okay, the one whose name I'm not going to pronounce because
Queen mother is the mother of the king, or is the
mother of the king,
the leader of the queens?
Mother of the king.
Okay.
Yes.
How many queens do we have in that country?
How many queens do we have? Queen is one, chief.
There's one. There's one queen, and then there's the king's wives.
Yes,
those are different.
That's different. Yes.
Yeah.
There's senior, junior wife, and so forth. Okay. All right. You have a prime minister. I told his name is Russell Dlamini. You have a chief justice named Baki Mfalala. Okay. Then you have a legislature. You have a parliament. You have an upper house. You have a lower house called the House of Assembly. See? So that is their structure.
I think the king's mother is called the great she-elephant.
Yes.
Then Drovokazi.
Yes.
She's there? The great she-elephant.
Yes.
Her role is not to be underestimated, by the way, in determining even who becomes king. Yes, and that's why she's part of the structure of that government. Right. She-elephant.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
They share, the people of Eswatini share very many similarities with the Zulu kingdom, or should I call it the Zulu nation. Okay. The proverb, a person born to be a flower pot will not go beyond the porch.
A person born to be
a flower
pot will not go beyond the porch. Prof, what's your interpretation of this one?
Well, that's a hard one, but it seems to suggest that there are certain roles that people may be predestined for, and they're unlikely to go beyond that point. Although I'm not completely sure, sometimes you can overcome your restriction to the porch.
Yes.
And grow out and grow in the garden.
Yes. You... In my mind, really, this proverb talks of conditioning. Because, and you say, you are predestined to be something, and you can say, who says?
Yeah.
Who says I cannot be a wallflower? Why is someone insisting that I must remain in a pot? So, yes.
It's not a flower, it's a pot, though. A person born to be a flower pot.
Yes.
Not flower in a pot.
Oh, no. I'm extending the meaning. Yes.
You will not become a dog if you are born as a flower pot.
Okay.
Or a wall.
You'll not become a cooking pot.
You will not become a cooking pot.
You'll remain a flower
pot. Okay. So, Prof, research. Where does research begin?
Okay. Thank you. So, as you know, you have hosted quite a number of scientists.
Yeah.
I always like first reminding everybody, the viewers and listeners, that when we talk about health research, we are not just talking about medical research. And this will come out as I'm discussing different ways of how you develop research, how you conduct it, how you report it, and other aspects of research. So it's always important to remind people. So it's not just a medical doctor in a laboratory. Here we are talking of research into social determinants of health. We are talking about systems determinants of health. We are talking about environmental determinants of health. But essentially, research always starts by identifying a problem. And you identify a problem in a number of ways. It can be anecdotal. You know, people start saying, hey, my auntie has had this issue. Oh, my uncle has had this issue. Or it can be from just observation. And again, I'll use medical, diseases as an example. Doctors start noticing, we are seeing people with a particular type of syndrome or symptoms. And that is exactly what happened with COVID. They realized people were coming with pneumonia that was not typical to the pneumonia that they had been seeing. So you start wondering what is going on here. So here's an example of where you're researching into a disease. So then you will start now thinking, I think there is something going on that is not the usual disease. And the question then you'll ask is, are we seeing an emergence of a new disease? I'm using emergence of a new disease as an example. And so now you start documenting carefully and looking at the trends. Are you seeing an increase? Was it a one-off? Was it a spike? Was it just an individual? You also start trying to work out which area the people are coming from, what are the characteristics of the people who seem to be coming with that challenge. Are they young people? Are they old people? Are they female, male? Is there something about their body type and these sort of things? So this is often the first step and is what in health science we call epidemiology, coming from the word epidemic in quote, but is understanding the disease, where is it, who is it affecting, and sort of what are the numbers, and even the trends. Are we seeing an increase, or is it a one-off event? Having identified those sort of questions, then you go to the next step, and you start asking why. What is it about, if you find that it's actually prevalent, say, among young people or among old people or people with particular characteristics, you then become interested in why is it that those people are more vulnerable. And for you to understand that, the questions then you're asking is, what is it about their makeup? In other words, their biology. And this is now why you're starting to go into the lab. What is it also about that particular parasite? And again, for parasite, I use that term loosely to cover viruses, bacteria, worms, all those I'm using in general. And you also want to understand, you may first even want to understand what is that parasite, because you may not even know it. So you may have to identify it, which is, I think, luckily, and in a very unlucky manner, COVID have helped people understand a bit of how these activities occur. And so there you're doing what you call biomedical research, because there you're focusing on the biology of the person, i.e. the host, the parasite, and also you're looking at what are the channels by which transmission is occurring. So you're asking, is it insects? Is it through contaminated water? Is it through people coughing at each other and sneezing? Is it through handshake? Is it through sexual contact? So you're also trying to understand that process. And again, also now trying to understand what is the impact of this infection in the body. Which parts of the body is it affecting? So is it the lungs? Is it the gut? And all the different systems that we have.
Okay.
So once you start understanding that, it allows you first to understand the impact of how the infection is spreading, but also how it's relating with the body. Because then you can start pinpointing what is it disrupting in your body. Is it disrupting a certain metabolic? When I say metabolic, your body does a lot of things inside, yeah? That's how you live. The process of living is a combination of so many chemical activities going on in your body at any one time. So you're looking at which chemical process is being impacted by this infection. So when you have that understanding, then you can start saying, where do I intervene? So let me use an analogy that people understand. You hear noise in the car.
Yeah.
And you know, if you take it to a mechanic, they'll start thinking, that noise. First, they might even just do informed guess. They may say that sounds very much like it's coming from the engine area.
You're in a borrow joint.
And it's a kobishoba. I'm a crankshaft. So they may not be right, but at least because they are experienced, they have a starting. It's not completely wild guess. Although sometimes we could be completely lost. Like we've never had that noise. We'll have to lift the car to kwa shimo tuinue juu, we look underneath, we start trying to identify. But as you home in, for example, they may say, okay, you crank it up, when you turn on the engine, it's got very low power. So it may be the air intake or it may be the fuel. You know, by the way, sometimes you'll take your car when you first start owning a car as a young man. The car stops and then you call the mechanic and the guy comes, he checks around and says, umeka mafuta.
Then that's it.
You know, you first buy an old car, the speedometer the fuel gauge doesn't show. Yeah. It's permanently on full, whether the car is empty or not. So anyway,
it's a process of elimination.
It's a process of elimination and also a process of forming what you call a hypothesis, where a hypothesis is not a complete wild guess because you're using all the different information that we already know about the human body and about parasites to kind of zero in. And once you've zeroed in at that point, then you can start asking. And here we are talking in some instances years, in some instances very quickly we are able to identify. And then at that point you can now start asking, how can we disrupt the parasites? At what stage can we disrupt the infection? Is it at the channel where you get infected? For example, if it is insect-borne diseases, is it killing the mosquitoes? How can we eliminate the mosquitoes? If it is through contact, if you remember, when we all had to wear face masks because for airborne, is it water? Provision of clean water? So there are all these factors that you are looking at.
Yeah. How do you then determine which is the best channel of disruption? How do you then say, okay, well, in this case, maybe we should tell folks to just wash their hands? Or should we tell folks to wear a mask? Or should we say, don't breathe next to each other, or don't breathe at all? How do you say... How do you say this is the best one to do based on that research?
Okay. Then? So there are a number of ways you come up with what is the best thing to do. In some cases, the disease will resemble other diseases. So, for example, if it's an airborne disease, a pneumonia, even if it's a new type of pneumonia, we already know how to stop infection by by preventing cough droplets. So it may be that you don't need to reinvent a new intervention because already there are interventions for diseases of similar type. But in some cases you don't. And this is where now you have to start looking at... So let me use treatment, for example, as an intervention. So again, you may find that although that disease is different from those that already existed, it's similar enough that it may be treated by already existing. So, for example, bacterial infections, they are often treated with antibiotics. Because bacteria belong to similar families, you may get a new disease with a new member of the same family, meaning that you can still use the antibiotics that you've been using against that family in general. However, there are times when we don't even have those treatments. So there what happens is that having tried to understand the biology, so now understanding your enemy, in the same way, if you had any enemy, you'd have to work out what are their ways, how do they invade our country, what type of arsenal are they using, what uniforms are they wearing so that we can recognize them. And then, again, now you use our understanding of biology to say, maybe this compound here can kill these parasites.
Yeah.
But at that point, you still don't have a surety that it will work.
Yeah.
And in fact, out of maybe every 100 or more compounds or chemicals that scientists often start with, you may end up with only one or two working.
Yeah.
Now, and feel free to interrupt me as I flow along.
Yeah.
Now, we have made, again, educated guess. And I know people here, scientists guess. Well, at some point we are starting with, that's why I'm saying it's educated, because it's informed by other, the knowledge we already have about things. That's what we call a hypothesis in more technical term.
Yeah.
In less technical term, it means we are anticipating or hoping based on the knowledge we have. So you then start testing those compounds. First, you test them. We don't say, I think this will work, and you walk up to Muga, you're coughing, That is completely unethical. There are ways we test. We test in the lab, for example. We can take human cells. First, we can take
from a living human being.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your red cells, your white blood cells, all these cells which you can get from the blood. We can also grow those parasites in the laboratory. So first you normally grow them outside the human body, and you hit them with your experimental drug, let's call it that.
Yeah.
And you see whether it will kill them. Now, it may kill those parasites, so you think you're in luck. But actually, you're not yet in luck, because there are a lot of things that can kill parasites outside the body. But remember, you don't know whether that thing that is killing the parasite would also kill the human being.
Yeah.
The most efficient way to kill the parasite would be to kill the host and the parasite, but it would be very, very unethical.
Yeah.
I don't think we would want that. So basically, you have now at least shown in the laboratory this chemical that we guessed, educated ways, that it might kill the parasite has worked in the lab. So the next step often has been to then go to what we call the animal stage for testing. So you're taking mice, and this is where the traditional guinea pig term came from, that you could test in guinea pig. It doesn't just have to be guinea pigs or mice. It depends on whether that disease can infect particular animals. So it may be rat, it may be mice, it may be even monkeys. So you infect them deliberately, and then you treat them with that compound. At the same time, you're starting to also check how toxic, how poisonous, how dangerous this compound is. Because if it's knocking out mice in certain quantities, you can scale up by human being and say, well, this one, even though it looks like it's good, we can't put it in humans. But if you pass the animal, what you call animal model, that stage, then that's when you start what are called human clinical trials. And
if you notice that it did not kill the animals.
No, so there are two things you're checking there. You're checking whether it will cure the animal.
Okay.
Remember, you've infected the animal.
Yep.
But you're also checking the amount that will kill the mice. So we test, we say...
So you have to go all the way until the thing dies.
Well, you have increasing doses.
Right.
So there's a group that may get 10 units, whatever the unit may be, 20 units, that unit, 40 units. You keep, so there are groups that will get increasing amounts. And what then you're doing there is, we call it toxicity testing. So you will say, at 40 units, 50% of the mice died. So they didn't die from the disease, they died from
the
medication. And so you have to now be aware, if you're going to go into humans, you even for your first test, you will be using the lowest amounts. And at this point, when the first time you go into humans, you're not testing whether it cures. The first thing you always test is safety. Is it safe? So you take, normally it's healthy male young adults. We don't start with women because obviously of subsequent risk in pregnancy and childbirth. So it's normally healthy young men. Often in Europe they do it with university students. And I want to take a slight break here because I want to discuss the issue of the ethics of now testing in humans.
What are they testing in humans?
Yeah.
Let's take a break, yes.
Yeah.
But we have to ask ourselves the ethics of testing on animals in the first place.
So the ethics of testing on animals.
Let's take a break.
Okay.
It's 28 minutes to 9. The steps in health research, that is what Professor Sam Kinyanjui, head of training at the Kemri Wellcome Trust program in Kenya, is taking us through. Okay, so we are at that stage where you have identified, so this is the pathogen, it's killing whatever parasite it's killing, it's affecting or infecting
people.
And then you take it to
animal. You test.
You start observing what is happening.
Experimental compound.
To the animal.
Yeah.
And the question that just comes in out of this break is, so where's the ethics? Why do you want to do this to animals?
Good.
And why not humans first? Okay. We'll come back shortly with this particular one.
Yeah.
So, Prof, this weekend, starting from today, going all the way, today is 26th, tomorrow is 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 1st, 2nd of December, right?
Yeah.
There is a shop called Woolworth, and you know it.
Yes, I do.
Now, Woolworth have decided this Christmas, they're sorting you out in advance. So go and do your shopping for your entire family this week. Because for every 3 items you buy, you pay 2 for 2.
Now, Eric, you know, you've just set me up.
They are hearing.
No, because when I go back home,
they are listening.
Eric said you take us shopping.
Yes.
Yes. I'm not coming back for your shopping.
And you only tell them, choose 3 things, sir, I pay for 2. If you choose any more than 3 things, you pay for the extras.
You will pay for 2?
No, you tell them.
I thought
go here, take 3 things, 2 you pay for 2, 1 will be paid for. Okay. 1 is a deal. So if you go with them and they take 4 things, there's no, it is 2 for 1, 2 for 1, 2 for 1. Sawa?
Sawa.
All right. So that's happening at any Woolworth shop between today and the 2nd of December. This is the Woolworth Black Friday deal. The Black Friday deal. Also during this period, those people who are listening to you, tell them, Showmax, 300 shillings on a mobile. They're sorted.
Showmax, 300 shillings?
On mobile.
On mobile.
They are sorted.
Wow.
All entertainment, they don't have to keep asking you, oh, should you bring the remote? Chukua simu yako hiyo ndio remote.
Mpaka mpira.
Toka hapa. Go and watch there.
Yeah.
And keep quiet. Back shortly. Good morning.
Yeah. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
New Life Prayer Center and Church chini ya Pastor Evangelist Ezekiel inakutangazia ibada kubwa ya meza ya Bwana.
Tunapokutana kwa mwili wa Yesu na damu ya Yesu, tunapeana chakula kwa yule mtu wa ndani.
Baraka za kufunga mwaka 2024, kupokea nyota, uponyaji, unabii pamoja na kufunguliwa kabisa. Ibada hii itafanyika tarehe 4 hadi tarehe 15 mwezi wa 12 2024. Mahali ni Mavueni, Mombasa nchini Kenya. Watu wa dini zote, watu wa mataifa yote mnakaribishwa.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi, 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 and highs of 24 in a sunny Nakuru at 16. 17 and sunny in Nyeri, going to highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 22 in a mostly sunny Eldoret at 16. Mombasa 29 is sunny with highs of 33. And the sun is up in Malindi as well, going to highs of 32 and lows of 25. 22 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 26 in a sunny Kakamega at 19. Kampala is sunny at 20 now, highs of 27 and lows of 18. While Dar es Salaam at 28 is sunny, going to highs of 32. It's 22 and sunny in Johannesburg. And the sun is up as well at 30 in Mogadishu with highs of 32. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 10 in Addis Ababa. It's partly cloudy in Lagos at 25 with highs of 33. And it's cloudy at 23 in Kinshasa with highs of 28 and lows of 23. All right, we're still in traffic hour and it continues. The usual hotspots of traffic this morning. The Eastern Bypass going towards the Cabanas interchange, as well as traffic coming off of Outer Ring. Extremely busy this morning. It's also busy on Kangunda Road. We'll see Uhuru Highway with the most of traffic this morning. Coming in from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout all the way through to the CBD and out towards Westlands. Traffic is going to be quite heavy for some time. Plus all this Limuru Road business, Lower Kabete through towards Spring Valley, and then also Limuru Road, that whole area through Thigiri Ridge and then into Muthaiga. So, hey, it's busy. At least for now, let's see what happens. Keep talking to us on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
3 minutes to 9. Our conversation continues with Professor Sam Kinyanjui. He's training us because he's the head of training at Kemri Wellcome Trust program on the steps in health research. So we've done those ones, identified a problem, there's like a disease, you've noticed there's a disease that's spreading, and you've gone to the lab, you've tried some chemical things here and there to see if those things can help. And then you've gone to a fully healthy monkey or rat or mouse or guinea pig, and you've infected it with that disease. And then this chemical of yours, you try now to inject it to see whether it's going to heal it. But you continue injecting to see at what point the thing will start turning blue. That's unethical.
So I think, first, let me say this. The question we've asked is very legitimate. And there has been a lot of safeguard put around the ethics of animal testing. We accept that to an extent it's inevitable to go through that step in most cases because you wouldn't want to go straight to human beings. In the same sense, and some people may disagree, but we do use animals for food. But in the same way, if you look at the way
we don't want to eat humans.
Well, kind of.
All right.
But but even if we look at the way now animals are slaughtered, though we accept that people will eat animal, you can't torture them and just slaughter them haphazardly. So even for animal work, there are very clear rules around how they will be done, what is considered torture and what is considered necessary research procedures. I'm not saying they wouldn't necessarily be painful to the animal, but what you consider necessary. And indeed, for you to be able to do animal work, it's actually harder to get an ethical approval. You have to prove even harder why you're doing that than sometimes even with human research. And also what has happened is, for example, the animals, the higher primates now, chimpanzees and all that, where we think there's a greater sense of suffering, and where now it's much, much, much harder to do any research using them. So
you
tend to use lower and lower animals.
That you have to ask somebody before you start.
And that is what I was about to come to, that whole concept of ethics of clinical trials, whether it's in animals or in human beings. So if I think that this compound will work, I don't walk up to people and start injecting them. And there's a reason for this. We have had bad history. I mean, some of you may be familiar with the work that German Nazi used to do on their prisoners of war, on the Jews who they captured, and they would do very nasty experiments. For example, they would leave you outside to see how long a human takes to freeze to death, or deprive you of oxygen and see how long you can live, or inject
or heat your body to see how long you'll survive and how much heat is necessary to kill you.
Exactly.
Yes.
So over time, in fact, after the Second World War, the number of if you like, declarations and agreements and guidelines were developed to govern health research. The first was the Nuremberg Code, which came after all the trials of these Nazi doctors who had done really nasty things. Then we are familiar with, for example, in the US, there have been nasty stories of where blacks were subjected to infections, even though there were denied treatment, just to observe how that infection progresses. These were the Taxation syphilis cases.
Yes.
And so those led to Declaration of Helsinki in 1964, and then the Belmont Report. And basically, just to really briefly summarize what they talk about, is that for clinical trials, there is something. First, you have to have respect for the person who is being asked to participate
in the trial. Yeah,
in a trial. So this respect is autonomy. And for those people who don't have autonomy, for example, children, there has to be another person, not the researcher themselves, who is mandated to give permission on their behalf, because they are sent.
Yes.
And that is obtained by what we call consent, informed consent. In other words, you are told what is going to happen, you're told the risks, you're told the benefits, you're told your rights, you're told if you can get out of it if you want, and so on and so forth. The second is a question of beneficence. So it's a question of doing no harm. So you shouldn't just do tests where you'll harm people. You minimize harm. You may not reduce adverse effect to zero, but you aim as much as possible. You should not knowingly harm people for the sake of research. And the third one is justice, which is essentially that you shouldn't select people to participate in research because they're vulnerable, like going to a prison or going to a poor place, because you kind of know if you also give them a bit of inducement, they'll participate. And also, you shouldn't really do tests for people who are not going to benefit. So, for example, coming to Africa to test a drug for European disease.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But people tend to think of only that direction. But even the reverse, going to test malaria drugs in a European child who is very unlikely to encounter malaria is equally unjust for them. So
they may visit Africa.
But in general, that's not their biggest risk. But you get the gist. So you're also ensuring that the people where you're testing will benefit should this work. It's not always assured it will work. Then there are other aspects, and the key one is that research has to be reviewed by an independent committee, what we call an ethics review committee. And this is not just scientists. These normally will have lay people, it will have leaders, it will have different people represented. In Kenya, just for the listeners, all the ethics review committees at different institutions are accredited by NACOSTI, the National Commission for Science, Technology and Innovation. And so they are the ones that give those committees the right to then review the proposal, the work you're you would like to do. And they will look at, is the science right? Because bad science is unethical. Like, I can't just come and say, I think eating soy will cure you, and it's unethical because I'm doing bad science. But they also look at, how are the rights of the participants protected? They will ensure that you'll follow the right protocols. And in many cases, especially for clinical trials, you'll also have other regulatory bodies that will step in. So, for example, if it is a trial involving injecting either an experimental drug or vaccine, in Kenya we have the Poison and Pharmacy Board that will also be involved. In the US they have FDA and others. So a researcher doesn't make their own doesn't come up with their own research and just go off and do it.
So there'll be oversights.
There are oversights.
Other areas.
Yeah.
Is there compensation should this experiment go wrong?
So, yes. So, depends more so with the clinical trials that involve injecting what we call an invasive process, where you're even injecting a new compound or vaccine into the person. Yeah, there will be insurance to cater for compensation by whoever is the sponsor of the trial. But that said, for any given experimental, even for the normal drugs, even post-experimental, and I was going now to the next step where there will, as I say, the first thing we're looking at is what are the risks and what are the adverse effects associated with this new drug or compound. At that point, you're not even looking whether it cures or not. You're simply saying, can we inject a human being
with this? Can I ask? So during a trial, the individual, what happens if, whether you're injecting with said disease or injecting with said medication, what happens if something does go wrong?
So what happens is that first, remember, there will be, as we said, there will be an insurance and compensation for the person. You do not hold the scientists culpable in a criminal sense, in the sense that when you're doing a trial, unless you can demonstrate that they knew this is going to happen and they just were being negligent, and because remember, this in many cases you are now testing for the first time in human. And that is also why even there you have what we call dose escalation. You start with very small amounts and you keep pushing, and then you stop at where you think you can treat the disease, but you still haven't seen any toxic effects. So the aim is to try and get drugs that have there's some drugs that are very good, but they have a very, very small amount before they become toxic. So you don't want to use that drug, although in terms of curing, it can cure. Because that's the next step. Once you've shown it's safe, at least now you see whether it can be used to treat. And the way we do that is, if there's already an existing drug, you compare it with the existing drug. And you monitor, and you are always ready that if you think this is not working, you revert to the existing drug. That's why you're comparing in some cases, there is no drug at all. So there you're comparing that drug with what you call placebo. Like, the easiest way to say is, imagine you're being injected with the main drug, the experimental drug, or even with it's normal saline, essentially. In most cases, it's not considered ethical if there is an alternative option. So you compare the option, the new with the option. But in some cases, there simply isn't an existing drug at that point. So you are looking there to see whether now you get cure. But remember, even here, it's a very small group of people who are in specialized facilities, because you are also still looking at toxicity. Remember, you started with healthy people. You don't know how it is going to impact on someone who is unhealthy. And here the numbers are still in the tens. You then move on, if you see that, to again now with the dose which you felt was the optimum, to hundreds. A bigger number. Now to hundreds of people. Then
who are also still healthy.
No, now these are people who are sick, but now you are expanding the numbers. Because what happens is that all drugs will have one adverse effect or another. And you may not see that effect when you have a small number of people. It's the same thing, if you walked out and you wanted to see someone wearing red, if you only looked at 3 people, you almost certainly won't see red. Or purple. Let's use purple because it's rare. But you can be sure as you walk and the numbers increase, you will eventually meet somebody wearing a pink and purple shirt together. It may take you walking across half of Nairobi to someone with a combination of a purple trouser, but eventually and it's the same thing. There are some adverse effects you cannot see until you've seen a very large number. So then you escalate again to an even larger number, and you are now looking mainly at seeing what are the adverse effects so that they can be documented. Now,
Prof, these adverse effects, you're looking for them within a very short time.
Well, depends on how quickly you're able to recruit. Some diseases, are rare. So it means for you to end up with 1,000 people will take, and maybe here is where I can explain why people wondered how quickly COVID was tested and all this, because we had millions of cases. So this in a day you could run a trial.
Many people.
And also it affected a large cross section of humanity.
Yes.
Yes.
So you could do a lot
so
of
you could
this.
do all the races and all.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could collapse a lot of these
But
aspects.
the issue then of the time comes in.
Well,
so we were testing these vaccines, but over a very short period of time.
No.
And you know what has been there in the public domain. We don't know the long-term effects.
No. So the reason why in many cases the drugs take long is not because time in itself is essential. It takes long because in many cases getting all the cases is. So it's not that as a researcher we want to test as quickly as possible. If I can get 1,000 cases in 3 days, I'm good. So it's not that I want to test over, So what
many years.
Many years. So what happens? The way you address the issue you've raised, and this happens with all drugs and vaccines and interventions, is that even after now it has been approved by the right regulatory and say this is good, FDA, whether in Kenya, Poison Pharmacy Board or whoever it is that is approving, we have a post-rollout or post-marketing survey. Because remember now, even at the best, you still have tested maybe 1 million people. So, but now you're selling it to 50 million people. So now you're likely to also see even more newer adverse effects that you didn't know existed because you could only see it within a certain number. Now, you still keep tracking. And what happens if you notice with many drugs, if you take out the inside the inscript that has the different, it says contraindicated for X, contraindicated for Y. These are things that are added as new information comes in. You realize, it's working very well, but there seem to be a group of people when they are prescribed this drug seem to have a particular problem. Again, remember the way we started? You're back to the first question. What is it about these people? Is it their age? Is it that they are people who take Taska, mbili kama kawaida? Is it when they take coffee? Is it people who also happen to have diabetes? So again, you do exactly the same research we've said. You track down, you pinpoint, then you actually come down and say, actually, what it appears is that this seems to exacerbate these side effects, or it seems to make this disease condition worse. So then you get an additional documentation saying, do not take alcohol in your, or do not drink milk with this, or do not do X, or if you have diabetes, don't prescribe this drug. So this continuous tracking of all these effects, and in some cases drugs do get recalled if
so they notice that there's something happening to it.
Yes. So there's another thing I need to emphasize here. Treatment is always a risk versus benefit balance.
Yes.
So the more lethal the disease, the more we are likely to accept slightly more poisonous drugs relative to a less lethal disease. That's why you find like treatment for cancers are quite toxic. They are very nasty. But
the
benefit outweighs the risk, because in some, and again, just so that I'm very clear, there are many cancers that are treatable. There are cancers that are harder to treat than others. There are cancers that will almost inevitably hit you off if they were not treated very quickly. So you have really toxic drugs and in addition to looking for new drugs, what we do in research, we are also constantly looking for less toxic drug for each of the diseases. So even for cancers, even where there is treatment, we are constantly looking to see whether we can get equally or even better drugs that are less toxic.
But that's the reason why you'll find drugs are prescribed, and it has to be prescribed.
Yes.
And you have to be given directions as to how exactly you must use it.
Precisely.
Yes.
I want to ask about some of the effects then, after the drug you come off the drug and it's working. Some of the effects Because if you maybe it's rudimentary thinking, but then would the research not then allow one to reduce on the effects of this particular drug, or is it something that you just can't help because of physiology?
No, actually, you're right. So what happens is, you may say, oh, for people with diabetes, if you're also going to take this drug, now you'll be taking half the amount.
Yes.
Or because we realize by the time you're taking a bit more, so of course we still have to keep it within the level where it treats you.
Yes.
But we work out, actually here, you may be able to reduce and still get the same cure without the same effect.
Yeah.
Or you maybe say, actually for children, what's happening is maybe this dose, although we did check, is still a bit, it has an increased risk of that effect, and we might be able to reduce it and still get the same impact. Let me give you an example. Okay, this wasn't so much adverse effect, it was the effect itself. So it wasn't like a negative. So yellow fever vaccine. And this is work that we did at Kemru Wellcome. There has been a shortage of yellow fever vaccines. There's a very small stock relative to the demand because it hasn't been produced regularly. But then we hypothesized, remember, that educated guess, actually, what if you reduced the dosage? Would you still get the same level of protection? And actually, we've been able to show you can reduce the dosage to a fifth.
What?
And still get the same protection. So, in other words, through our research, we have increased the stock of yellow fever vaccines in the world by fivefold, just without any more manufacturing. So that is a research where you go back and question the original. It's not that they were wrong, because remember, you have a range. So once you find a range that works, you say, we are good, we are good to go. Occasionally, you'll come back and go, can we see whether lowering this range will have the same impact? And because sometimes what happens is that there are some prescriptions that were based on what you call expert opinion. The professor in medicine felt it really would be.
It would be best if you did.
If you also added this, or you did, or you had 3 doses. So we also do what are called pragmatic clinical trials. What are called practical. Pragmatic is so it's going back to the dosages and saying the evidence that says you have to take 3 times a day. What if you actually took 2 times a day? Because now, with new understanding of the disease and new understanding of this drug over the last 10 years, we have worked out actually probably we are getting excessive of what we need. We can half the amount and still. So by then you can't also still wake up and say, now that we have done that, we are just going to have it. You still have to go through a clinical trial, because remember, you're risking giving people an underdose. So someone has to look at it and say, there is a logical reason to think that this is a good
So it's just as
trial.
expensive. So the farmer could have done this, and the pharmaceutical company could have done the trials and seen, well, we could do it with 50%, but let's just do the whole 100% so that we sell more.
So what happens is that farmer does not wake up, contrary to what a lot of people think. And in any industry, let me just say this, because some people, but they have done this. There is misbehavior.
Yes.
But farmer still is regulated by independent public bodies. So when they generate their data, it still has to be scrutinized and reviewed by independent public bodies. That's why I keep using FDA, the American equivalent, or Pharmacy and Poisons Board, and other regulatory bodies that we review. So pharma itself doesn't wake up, test, work, and say, hey, this worked, and go into the market and sell.
There has to be someone else.
Yeah.
Well, some very good dedication that we've gotten this morning. Thank you very much, Prof. Come
Karibu
again.
sana.
So when you get that letter, now it'll be telling you how regularly you'll be coming.
No. The main issue is
the bottom line.
No, Woolworth. You're paying. You're paying.
You pinned him on the Woolies.
Huh? Woolworth.
You're paying for.
Go take 3. Eric pays for one. Okay. Eric and Woolworth have this Black Friday deal. So between today, 26.
For 2.
I pay for 2. Eric pays for 1.
Eric pays for 1.
Where it's Woolworth paying.
So Woolworth and maybe same thing. It's 9 a.m. Time for the news.
Pleasure.
Professor Sam Kinyanjui is the head of training at Kemri Welcome Trust program in Kenya.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm La Obaga. Kenyatta National Hospital has announced that it will dispose of 262 unclaimed bodies if they are not collected in the next 7 days. In a statement, KNH requested the public to visit its farewell home and identify their kin before it seeks authority to dispose of the bodies. Of the 262 unclaimed bodies, 16 belong to adults, 238 are babies, and 6 are consented for disposal. This comes a month after Nairobi City County called upon the public to identify 107 unclaimed bodies at the city mortuary. 3 people arrested in connection to an alleged fake recruitment program in Eldoret will be arraigned this morning. They were arrested after they ferried tens of youth from rural areas of Uasin Gishu to Eldoret City, promising to recruit them for lucrative foreign jobs in Dubai. Uasin Gishu DCI boss Daniel Muleli says some of the youth were ferried from parts of Ziwa and taken to a hotel in the town, later being transferred to another location near the annex area, causing suspicion from the youth who had also been given some recruitment forms to register for the jobs. Africa recorded the highest rates of intimate partner and family-related femicide last year, driven by an increase in killings in countries such as Kenya. The report by UN Women said globally, 85,000 women and girls were killed intentionally in 2023. It said globally 140 women and girls die every day at the hands of their partners or close relatives, which means one woman or girl is killed every 10 minutes. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights said killing of women by intimate partners has worsened. The National Police Service says 97 femicide cases were reported in the last 3 months alone, underscoring the magnitude of the crisis. Kenya is set to sign a landmark memorandum of understanding to strengthen collaboration in global health initiatives and advance the universal health coverage agenda. This morning, the Ministry of Health will formalize an agreement between the government of Kenya, represented by Cabinet Secretary for Health, Deborah Baraza, and the International Vaccine Institute. According to the Health Ministry, the partnership represents a significant step towards strengthening vaccine development and immunization programs, advancing Kenya's universal health coverage agenda, and supporting global health efforts. Kenya officially became a member state of the IVI in June, marking a significant step towards bolstering the nation's capability for vaccine production and self-reliance. The government is going to form a multi-industrial task force to deal with rats and golden snails that have invaded rice fields at the Muga irrigation scheme in Kirinyaga County. Speaking in Muga after touring Thiba Dam and all National Irrigation Authority projects, water sanitation and irrigation, CS Eric Muridhi said the task force will involve the Ministry of Agriculture and the county government of Kirinyaga. Muridhi said rats and snails have affected rice production in the scheme, and the ministry is now using biological methods to fight the menace in the scheme. And finally, in the international scene, the wife of Ugandan opposition politician Kiza Besigye has said she does not expect him to get a fair trial after he was detained in neighboring Kenya, brought home and accused of possessing weapons and other offences in a military court. Winnie Byanyima said her husband was seized as he prepared to attend a book launch in Nairobi on November 16th in what both rights groups Amnesty International and a senior official at Kenya's Foreign Ministry have described as an abduction. Uganda's government spokesperson Chris Baromunsi said last week his country does not carry out abductions and that arrests abroad were done in collaboration with host countries, but did not comment on the specific case. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss any morning, and it's a show that really gives a real situation in the situation room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Nice meeting you. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again.
Character is like pregnancy, you cannot hide it. You know, people hiding here and there, you know, but after 2-3 months, 5 months, now you realize, so that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say, you cannot pickpocket a naked man.
How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
94.4 Spice FM. Nairobi.
Sunny turns almost cloudy in Nairobi. We're seeing some of that traffic situation, and it seems dulled down just a little bit. There is some traffic still left on the Thika Superhighway. It's still pretty busy coming in from Lower Kabete going towards Spring Valley and on Wayakiwe as well. Limuru Road, Muthaiga, Thigiri Ridge, that's all reducing. So it looks like we'll be out of traffic hour without too much of a scratch today. The Southern Bypass, she's been pretty sitting in the corner looking all good all morning, and you can get through into the city, the scenic route, with no problems. A little bit of traffic left on North Airport as you go towards the Cabanas interchange, but that again will not be too painful. Let's see what happens when we really clock out of traffic hour. In a short while, we'll speak on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8:09, good morning. We are on to the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This is The Situation Room. We are here today, tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Well, until Friday, we'll be here, and then a weekend, and then we'll be back here again on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This is what we do every weekday morning. And also every weekday morning, we tell you some good things that can help you with life. For example, it's our holiday season, the weekend is here, and you need to think about one or two things. What are those one or two things that you need to think about? Entertainment for your family.
Indeed. A lot of that entertainment sometimes comes what you're going to be watching on TV, right? So how about real life situations coming to your screens every week? And this is on Showmax. What do you need to do? Subscribe to Showmax for as little as 300 shillings a month. 300 shillings can give you a lot of entertainment on TV, on Showmax, for an entire 30 days. Some of the shows that already are on Showmax, Black and Blue, it goes through the intrigues of the police service and gentle and stories about what they've been involved in, all from a police officer's perspective. There's also another show called Foreplay. Four spelled Four. It's four gentlemen going through the concrete jungles of Nairobi, Did you know that Nairobi is a concrete jungle? My friend.
That's what I heard.
It is. And so these...
Shamba Lamawe.
These 4 gentlemen, and in this particular series, we're going to be talking to you, or rather showing you some of the stuff that they go through. It's really, really interesting. Some of the episodes have already dropped. You'll be able to catch those and others that come through. So remember, Shikana Showmax's festive season. You don't have to look much further for any of your entertainment. For just 300 shillings every month, you can be top.
Hivo too?
Yes.
Every month?
Yeah.
Every month. Yeah, very good. Yeah, so you also talked to us about, the money.
Okay, so now, you see that money that you have, Eric, and you don't know what to do with it. Stop putting it under your mattress.
Why? But the mattress is good.
No, you can grow it. Why have 3 when you can have 9?
Grow
the mattress. So you want to know how you get from 3 to 9. You want to know how you can make sure you protect that 9, and that you can make it maybe at some point 18 or 27. The folks at Standard Chartered are saying, you know what, we've done this for a good 100 and something years. We understand what it means to create, grow, and manage wealth. So how about you come and have a conversation with us, and you can show you how to do this. It doesn't matter who you are. They're young, they're older, they're business, they're employed. It doesn't matter. People across board have been able to get this advice, and you can actually start to create, grow, and manage your wealth. It's the folks at Standard Chartered Priority Banking, and they're saying, you know what, send us an email. We will talk to you. We will hold your hand. We'll guide you. We'll show you how you can make sure that your existence here sorted. And even for people who are coming after you, it's prioritybanking.ke@sc.com.
Very good. So recently we've been having conversations that are just properly and directly targeting the youth. We've seen the youth are now more and more engaged in matters of governance in this country and what is happening around the country, right? So, for example, it's because of the youth that we saw the issue of Adani being exposed and being publicized properly. The youth organized that Occupy JKIA story, and anybody who had not heard would don't. Why are they
living on Pluto?
Why are they going to the airport? And that's when it became clear. Oh, there's something that's happening. And so now when you see all these stories of Adani says this, Adani says, you've cancelled that 637 billion shillings deal. It's nothing. It's immaterial, right? Well, at least the youth helped us to know about it. And also the youth have helped us to look back at the projects that have been launched in the country, at county level, at national level, and so on and so forth. Also, the youth have been able to help us understand what's happening in the country as well. And the ZKE campaign has been doing that. This morning, let's talk about tax and the youth. The youth understand this whole tax money things going on. There are several laws that have been proposed, and they're going through public participation. One of them is the Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2024, which some people have said is the reintroduction of the Finance Bill 2024 through the back door. Is it or is it not? We're joined by Okoh Pondo, who's been here before. He's a civic educator. And Charlotte Kibet, who's the founder at The Big Talk. Charlotte, Okoh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Maybe
you're here.
Very good. Welcome to the hot seat of... good. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
This is the hot seat of Kenya's biggest conversation. Karibuni. We're going to have several conversations around it. Charlotte.
Yes.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So you're very active on social media.
Yes.
What's your handle?
It's at Charlotte Kutment. So if it's on X, it's S Kutment, and Instagram, basically Kutment. So that's Kutment. And a weird Gen Z. I don't have TikTok. So, sorry, I just don't have TikTok. Are you Gen Z,
really?
I am Gen Z.
And you don't have TikTok?
I don't have TikTok.
Okay.
Because you don't know what it is?
No, I just decided no. I just don't want TikTok on my phone.
Where to find it?
Maybe. You guys can educate me. You guys might just be teaching me new things.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just decided TikTok, not for me.
Not just for me.
So you're active on X
and Instagram.
Yes. Not Facebook.
Oh.
Too old.
Maybe that's yours.
Kidogo. Are you on Facebook?
On?
Facebook. Are you on Facebook?
City is not on Facebook. It's too old. I mean, City is on TikTok.
City is on TikTok. Crying out loud.
Do you want my PO box?
We want your Yahoo.
City has Yahoo mail.
Email.
And Hotmail.
See? What are those? Yes. I recently discovered Gmail.
Recently?
Wow.
Yes.
Discovery.
Karibu sana. Of course, you're on social media as well.
Yes.
On which platforms?
I'm on all platforms. So this is weird because I'm among the youngest millennials. So I'm on TikTok more than all other platforms. My handle is at 6th Kenya 32. At 6th Kenya, number 6, TH Kenya 32. And that is just the name cutting across all through.
Okay.
You're asking about Facebook. Someone was making a joke sometimes back saying when you come from Facebook and you're joining TikTok or Instagram, you feel like you're coming from the countryside to the city. Facebook is about, people just announcing weird stuff. And when you go to Instagram, life is cool. Everyone takes nice photos and it's clean. No one is poor there. Everything.
May I find this very strange?
City understands those things.
May I find this very strange? Because I've lived in the city more than all these millennials. And suddenly I've come from the rural areas to town. Simply because there's a radio channel I don't know about.
City has never been to the rural areas of Facebook. You know?
The ghetto.
The
Bundes. City is a TikToker. And a TikToker.
You do some challenges there. Do you dance? Do you do?
Yeah,
you're on TikTok.
Yeah,
I have no idea what you're asking.
but he does them.
He does them.
Okay.
He just doesn't know what they are.
City, why don't you welcome our guests with the day's proverb?
Yes. Our proverbs for this week are from the Kingdom of Eswatini.
Ooh.
Why? Ooh.
I don't know. I just reminded me of school.
School.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Please continue.
A person born to be a flower pot. Not a flower pot, will not go beyond the porch.
A person born to be a flower pot will not go beyond the porch. Okay, I thought your interpretation here.
Okay, this is very interesting. Maybe just say like Nerima last time, I wonder where you get some of these weird proverbs. But maybe if you are conditioned to be in a certain way and you choose to believe, so it becomes difficult maybe to live past that place. Just maybe.
It's good, yes.
I think just the same as him, but basically it's like can you repeat it again?
Most definitely.
Yes, thank you.
A person born to be a flower pot will not go beyond the porch.
So a flower pot is basically in the porch, right? Inabaki hapo. So haisongi pale inafaa kusonga. At least ka flower can jump over to the flower pot and to the floors and everywhere. So yeah, utabaki tu hapo basically. It can't go beyond that.
You had a conversation with the pot.
Yes. So you can't just go. It's anyone who
with pot with a pot.
With a pot, yes.
Not a person born as pot.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Charlotte, you have a platform called The Big Talk. What's that all about?
So, yeah, The Big Talk. Basically, so when I was 13, I was watching the nighttime news. I was one of the weirdest kids. So, I was rushing to watch parliamentary proceedings when I was like 10. And at that time, people are rushing to play games. And I have to rush to watch.
At the age of 10?
10, 12, around that age. So, I think I was a weird one. So, like even during public events, when the national anthem would come, I will make sure the whole family stands up in the living room. So I think I was a little bit weird, which is good. So the Lord doesn't make mistakes, so I don't think I was weird. So one time when I was watching, as 13, I was watching the nighttime news, and then a topic of FGM came. And I was like, what the hell is this? So I asked my mom, what is FGM? My mom pulls me aside. She's like, I'll tell you. So she tells me in her room, and I go, oh my gosh. There are people who are the same age as me at 13 and even more younger and are experiencing such injustices, such demonic, gruesome activities to them. And I said, absolutely not. I will not sit on the sidelines. I will not staki to call it to complain social media, and then there's nothing you're actually doing about it. So that bred me loving the socio-economic scope in Kenya specifically. And just a funny fact, I remember my dad used to buy all magazines from Nation all the way to Star, and he used to line them up at home, and then at the end of the day he will come and say, everyone to read for me the headlines of every particular magazine. At that time, I didn't understand what this man was doing because I was like, sir, you are just a very strong Kalenjin man. I don't know what's wrong. And now I actually thank him. Not what he did for me, at least now I'm more educated and I can get to grasp a few things that maybe my peers didn't at that particular time. So just to see injustices happen, I said I cannot sit on the sidelines while that is happening. Yeah. I think I'm done.
So you created the Big Talk.
So I created the Big Talk.
What is
later
it?
on. So the Big Talk is basically a civic education movement where we like to simplify and create awareness, specifically for Gen Zs, but not just Gen Zs, because there are a lot of people who are not Gen Zs
Gen
and
Zote.
can't Gen Zote. Remember that guy who akasema since what any Gen Z, you know, everyone. And basically mine was I'm simplifying bills for you. I'm I'm creating awareness particularly to any particular topic that's coming along, because most people don't want just to. If I give you a bill that has been presented to you, most people won't even take the time to read it because it's boring.
Yep.
You know? So I said, wait, there are new ways I can do this and I have a good voice. So let me use it. Yeah.
So what makes you understand the bills that others can't understand?
I don't know. I think the passion that comes behind it. So let's say if I, like yesterday night, if I haven't understood a particular bill, I will use all forms, manners, calls to make sure that I understood this bill. So the difference is if you have a burden for your country, it changes everything than just saying, watu wanabogava, wanaiba, and then there's nothing that your heart is carrying. I don't know if that makes sense. And for me, who loves the Lord, loves Jesus, I think has given me a burden to carry it much more deeply. Like, say me too because I want to say or be in the political scene, or I do. Actually, it's so crazy. I don't like the who is this and who is that. I thrive in I have gotten information, and thank you, Charlotte, I have gotten because of you. As simple as that. Yeah.
Hey. Of course, you're also a civic educator, and on these spaces as the younger Gen Z, as the younger millennial, the older Gen Z, younger millennial, all right? You also do a lot of this civic education in various platforms. Yeah, why?
I think for me also, I grew up in Kibra, and I've seen quite a number of times people end up doing things, sometimes also maybe being misused because they don't really know what is happening. Remember last time when we were here and we were talking about sometimes you are going to apply for your ID, then you are told, for this you have to get this amount of money, you have to do this, you have to do this. So I told myself, no, I'm not going to sit down and again watch other people come to me or sharing the same experiences. Yeah. So another great turning point, because I was never vibrant on social media until protests happened. So there's this time we were in the city center and the media people came around and they were asking us questions. There's a time I had somebody responding and I said, I don't even want to appear on news with this same person on the screen. Because most people end up participating that they don't even understand at all. So I asked somebody, why are you in the street? Because we were on the street for a very good cause. I was arrested actually among the first few cases taken around the city by these police and everything. Yeah. But then you ask somebody, why are you in the street? Then they say, no, I saw people coming out. I'm out with them. Why are you in the street? Ikitu nimbaya bana. Nimbaya. My MP said it is bad. So then you ask, okay, wait a moment. Which part of it don't you like? So then people don't have answers. Now the challenge is that if we do not have answers, then we'll always be like the spanner boys to other people who now know what is happening. And in most cases, these are politicians. Latiff, as a country right now, we should really, really be ashamed. I saw the people, the standing ovation in Parliament recently, and I was wondering. And this the same people who, when this thing was introduced, they were very happy about it. And again, when it is cancelled by the president, they are happy about it. So where do we stand exactly? And these are the same member of parliament who are supposed to lead civic education and public participation on the ground.
Yeah.
They seem not even to understand what is happening. Yeah. Then another great turning point also, Latiff, in my life, I ran for the parliamentary seat in Kibra sometimes back.
Hey, let's go.
And during the debate, we were being asked questions, and suddenly you listen even to the candidates contesting, and you wonder, do they really know what they're contesting for?
These are older than you.
Yes. A speech of an MC, a speech of a member of parliament, a speech of a governor in Kenya seem to be the same. All of them want to build bridges, whether they are rivers or not. Nitaleta maji, they don't care. One MC aspirant said that, mimi mkinichagua nitamaliza njaa. and people were clapping. Mimi mkinichagua nitamaliza insecurity. And I was wondering, do they really know what they are running for? So we want to do civic education, even political education, to make even the candidates understand what they are running for.
Maybe we should ask you the question, did you know what you are running for?
I had to do my thorough research, and I knew exactly why I wanted to be a member of parliament and not MCA.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you did your research, you prepared. The person who got elected was the one who was going to end hunger, the one who was going to build bridges, and the one who was going to bring water, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay? So, were you really seeking the right occupation? Did you actually want the right job?
I did not win the seat, but I know that I did not lose. Because in the process, we managed to change so many minds to make people believe that there's a better way that things can be done. Because in most cases, I mean, even if you don't win a seat, but within the whole process of campaign, you can make a difference by enlightening the public. In fact, the person who won, number one and number two, are people who had deeper pockets.
Actually, you've answered the question that I asked, because perhaps what you're doing is what you should continue doing, as opposed to asking to be the MP or the MCA or whatever it is that you want it to be.
Yes. So for now, that is, to me, that is very important. So that even in future, regardless of who chooses to run for a seat, they should run knowing what they are running for. Or else they might even make the public start expecting things that they cannot even deliver. Yep.
So maybe there is no intent by folks who are running for office to actually make a change, to actually develop, to actually stand. Is that what we're saying? Are we saying that maybe there's no intent and that we need to be intentional about leadership, intentional for results?
Yeah, definitely. I think most people, I was telling my family that I would want to run for any, particularly like an MP in the future. And right now, when people want to say they want to get into positions of government, either elective or even nominated at some point, ni venye I saw, let's say, Eric alivai akapata, and then in 2 months he bought a guzzler. I don't want to enter there because I want to bring change. I want to enter there because I saw Eric in 2 months of his salary, he's gotten what he's gotten at now. So why do people get into positions of government? Of course, it's not servanthood leadership, and of course, for me, leadership is servanthood, basically, because you're going to lead people from a servanthood place. They didn't put you there to go buy a guzzler and then sit, right?
Can I ask you a question? Do people actually want servant leaders?
I like to answer that in this way. I think Kenyans have been conditioned to love murderers, thieves, and all of the above. Wash, because that's what excites us. And of course, how did murderers get their money?
They washed.
Killed and all of the above. So I think we've been conditioned to like that type of money and not even ask, because recently Senator Cherargei said when he was telling Omutata that you need around 7 billion to vie, right? Who can have 7 billion
just waiting somewhere,
sitting around, if you've not done dirty business in this country? 7 billion. Then aren't we conditioned to love those type of people?
And where does the money go? So it comes to us. So we are the ones who want 7 billion.
Can I tell you where the 7 billion goes? So as a former candidate, I saw it openly. Let me tell you, 1 week in a campaign, it feels like it is crazy, because the moment you declare yourself as a candidate, now all the community members start bringing you all their problems. Even your own age mates now telling that I need to go to university, bro. I need to, and you're wondering, can I really pay your full university fees? And now even to the worst nightmare that I saw, I won't mention the candidate. There's a time now people are being told queue and they're being given money. Even my own team now had to go and queue there because we also needed that money.
I should have told you something. Why didn't you join them and also queue? Because clearly they're not discriminating.
Ninja.
So the work that you do now in civic education, right? And you've engaged, trying just to understand people's thinking in terms of understanding the various political positions that we have, various positions of leadership. But then there's the other side of laws, policies. From your experience that you have right now, do the youth understand the lawmaking process? Not just the laws, the lawmaking process in Kenya. Charlotte?
I think in 2022, that was my first time to be eligible to vote. I was so excited. I was pumped. I was like, let's go. It's my first time. Woke up at 3. I was ready to go. And then later on, and after reading the statistics that 39.84 of registered voters from the youth from 18 to 35, and my heart sunk. And I was like, what is this? I woke up at 3, guys. Where are my people?
And you're only 39%.
And I was at 39%. And nikashtuka nikasema jamani, I have waited for me to turn this age to vote, and now what's happening. And I don't believe people have actually, they don't really know or understand. And some might be our fault, some might not. Like case example of what people follow. Case example of me. As I said, I was a weird child, maybe a little bit, because if you look at my social media, I'm not interested in knowing whose wife did this and all that. I don't care about those things at all. And maybe it's different for everyone, right? No judgment here. For me, I loved politics. If you don't love politics, that's fine as well. But I believe at the rate that we are at as a country, if you don't know something, try and know just something. Kitu kidogo tu. You don't really have to love politics.
Just get some knowledge.
Just kitu tu. Usidanganywe na yo uletewe maji. Because what is that? Because I remember the one time I was sitting in I created a committee of people who can help me to understand if I want to be an MP or an MCA. And the suggestions they were giving me, I was like, goodbye, guys. I don't want to hear this anymore. Because what is this? Why are you telling me I should lie, right? I love the Lord. Why are you telling me I should lie? Why are you telling me that I will do that? Or mwingine akaniambia, ukiambiwa uchome nyumba ya your contestant. And that is when I left the meeting. Such things. So...
Of course, do the youth understand?
Do they understand? Yes, some do, some don't. But at this point... more than 100% convinced that people are beginning to care.
They are.
Because every day my conversations are conversations in matatu, in a place where maybe we go for Chapo Madondo somewhere. And every time you are sitting down with the Kenyans, people are really angry. And that anger was very necessary. So sometimes when you start this conversation, did you know that this is coming? Did you know that this is coming? People are always, hey, okay, how is this going to affect us? Then now you start explaining bit by bit, right? Because you just get into a matatu and you, just with the driver, just some few minutes, Kenya kwaje bana? Okay, this is happening, blah, 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 this is happening. You get into a taxi, Kenyans are angry right now. People are just discussing about the state of governance in the country. And I think everyone at this point is worried and everyone is concerned.
So an icebreaker is just Zakayo. Understand? And the story starts.
Everybody. There's a time we used to make calls at the countryside. No, and unfortunately now my MP is now a CS. Now the rhythm changed a bit. I would call my friends and the first, Niaje, Nani must go. Niaje. Nowadays, so last time I called and said, Niaje, Nani must go. No. Go where? We're now in the government.
Broad-based.
We're now in the broad-based government.
Let's take a break. 28 minutes to 10. We are hosting 2 youthful Kenyans in the studio. Charlotte Kibet, founder The Big Talk, and Okoh Pondo, civic educator. We are talking about the youth, the laws. Is there a disconnect? Do we understand? So, Charlotte, you've heard of a shop called Woolworths, right? So, and you also have heard of Black Friday.
Yes.
Okay. So between today and the 2nd of December, walk into Woolworths, buy 3 items, pay for 2. Tell them Eric is paying for the 3rd one.
Hallelujah.
Okay? Yeah, that's because that's what's happening at Woolworths.
Wow.
So pay for 2, no, buy 3. 3 for 2. Of course, how is that?
That's good.
I'm telling you. This Christmas season, it's all about just coming out looking the right way with new clothes. Because you walked into Woolworths at any point, 3 for 2. 3 for 2.
In other words, 3 for the price of 2.
Yeah. Pay for 2, get 3.
Okay, pick up 3, pay for 2. How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Simplified.
Okay, we'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
All right, it's a sunny morning in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15. Lows of 15 and highs of 24 in a mostly sunny Nakuru. And it's sunny at 18 in Nyeri with highs of 24. And after the morning clouds in Eldoret, it is now sunny going to highs of 22 and lows of 13. Mombasa at 30, we'll see highs of 33. And Malindi at 30 as well, we'll see highs of 32. 25 in Kisumu, going to highs of 27 and lows of 20, and it's 20 and sunny in Kakamega with highs of 26 and lows of 16. Kampala is sunny after the rain, highs of 27 and lows of 18, while it's sunny at Dar es Salaam at 28, we'll see highs of 32 and lows of 24. Johannesburg at 23 is sunny with highs of 30. Mogadishu at 30 will go to highs of 32, and it's 19 in a sunny Addis Ababa with highs of 24 and lows of 10. We're looking into a sunny Lagos at 26 with highs of 33, and it's cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa with highs of 28. Afternoon is mostly cloudy and windy in Beijing at 2 degrees. We'll see highs of 3 and lows of -4. It's 8 degrees and cloudy in Paris, going to highs of 12, and 7 and cloudy in London with highs of 10 and lows of 6. Round this out in New York, where at 11 degrees it's cloudy Monday night. Coming into Tuesday, highs of 15 and lows of 4.
Everything nice, everything nice.
Spice up your life.
All right, so traffic has actually not performed too poorly today. Just a little bit of it left. You know, we're going to have that issue with just past the view on the Thika Superhighway as you get into the city. But mostly it's reducing everywhere you look. So it's a good thing, eh? Yep. Let's talk through the morning. SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We continue our conversation with the Koto civic educator and Charlotte Kibet, also civic educator, founder of The Big Talk. So the trigger for the protest earlier this year is largely said to be the finance bill, right? So people just got to a point where they felt, no, this one, no, because we don't understand how this money is going to be utilized, and we don't feel like there's value for it. Now, since then, there have been other, finance conversations in Parliament. There's been a supplementary budget. Now we're in the process of making the budget for the next financial year. But then there's a bill that's already before Parliament right now, and this is the Tax Laws Amendment Bill, which is seeking to do several things. Now, the two of you have engaged with this bill, and you're engaging with your audiences about it. From the beginning, did people know that there's such a bill, Charlotte?
No. People didn't know.
People don't know that there's such a bill.
People don't know there's such a bill. I mean, even me, I can be carried away and say such things inaweza kupita very quickly if you're not actually aware, or if you're not even following what's like social media sites of Parliament, or just what's happening online. So inaweza kupita, like grace to you. If you feel pressure, itakupita, inaweza kupita, and most people don't know, are not aware of it as much. So yeah.
So if it comes and of course people are not maybe aware of it, what would the impact of that be? Of a law going through this process, getting passed in Parliament, and the majority of the population, that is the youth, the millennials and the Gen Zs, and the others are alphas, and they're not aware of it.
Yeah, so this is what is going to happen. I believe that some of us might have to answer very tough questions in the future, because just the same way we ask our parents that why did this happen, or how did this happen. So now that people are not aware, we have to find every way of making people aware of what is happening in our country. Unfortunately, conversations about bills and governance are not as, if you may allow me say, maybe have not been made as sexy as other conversations. I mean, they're not just normal conversations that you just get into, you just start talking about. Yet these are issues that affect our lives every day. You look at some of the, the parts of this bill that we're talking about. You talk about issues of transfer of property. Do people really know that this something that we are going to talk about? Issues of withholding tax, especially if you do business with the government. Issues of what is now going to happen to the multinationals. We are talking about digital taxation, and even tax for those now who are in the construction. business. Because I know the terms might sound very technical, but by the end of the day, it is going to trickle down and we're going to be affected. So some of us now owe the public, because now it's just like a duty of care that we've already assumed. Now we owe the public that responsibility of getting this information, synthesizing it, then giving it back to the public in a way that now they can participate. And that's why actually we are also involved in campaigns like Sigei, because it allows people now to, in one way or the other, collect information in the easiest way and make things be understood. You digest things according to the thematic areas, even to the topic that people are interested in, so that by the time I'm participating, or by the time you are inviting me to participate in a certain conversation, I know what I'm part of. Yes.
So did it need to happen? Did that trigger of the protests in June, did it need to happen? Because I think of it like, a bomb. Let's throw this thing, let's scatter this thing.
Yeah.
Then now, when the fire has died, now let's now see what we're supposed to pick up, what we're supposed to learn, understand.
Yes.
Did it need to happen?
I thank the Lord. I thank Jehovah Jireh. I will call him all the names that we give him. It needed to happen. As I said before, I was a weird kid, so I was used to wonder, why don't people actually want or care about, their nation? So when that happened, I was like, thank you, Jesus, this has happened, because now people have become more aware of what's happening. And right now, even if, let's say, the storm went down kidogo and it has come down, people are still lacking. They're like, wako rada. Like right now, ukiingia kwa Uber, useme tu hivi, must go. Even you're getting discouraged because you're like, oh wow, okay, like they're even complaining to you even much more, So the conversation has started, it should continue, but now on a more informational basis than depending on feelings and emotions of nimejam, nimekasirika.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
And you allow me to respond to that question?
Oh, no. By all means, respond. You're the guest.
Okay. Right. So for me, I do not really think even finance bill was the problem. Kenyans are tired and are asking this important question. Why keep on milking one dry cow all the time? Why can't we have more to milk, The second thing, people are also asking the issue of accountability, because I do not think people have a problem with their money being taken. People are always asking, after taking our money, then what next? I have conversation a lot with high school students, and they'll always tell you, yes, we do not really engage directly, but we see it in the faces of our parents. When our parents, every month, a parent is complaining, this month I can't buy you this, or I won't bring you this because this has increased. So now the worry here is, we pay these taxes, but where are the hospitals? They're just buildings. Some of them don't even have facilities. Doctors, sometimes we don't even have doctors in this hospital. Where are the schools? What are our roads looking like? The state of security in the country. So the taxes we are paying, where is this tax? The taxes going to?
Yeah.
The number two, come back to the issue of the sources. Yes, you want to tax us more, but where are the jobs? We are talking of over 70% of the population now being the age of 35 and below. We're talking of almost, 1 million people getting the job market every year. But how many jobs are being created in this country every year? So who do you want to tax? What are we taxing exactly? Where are you getting this money? Where do you want to tell people to keep on getting money? Same government, again, we've been told quite a number of times that we are losing 2 billion shillings every day in this country. If you do that one, roughly annually we are losing over 700 billion shillings. Why can't we then just look at even ways of just closing even 50% of the loopholes? They now consider using that money if we truly mean well for the people. That is always the question that I don't get an answer to.
Can I ask the question then?
Yes.
Do you think it is important, it's to both of you, that the audiences you speak to, the people you speak to, should be well informed about their rights? A. B. They should internalize those rights and demand that they actually live the reality of those rights.
So, other than saying, I know my rights, every time that we are outside or if anything wrong happens to you, you're like, police, I know my rights. I actually think we should know our rights. So that if the police akijaribu kukushika or enters your car, you're like, oh, by the way, in article something. This one says this, right? So it gives you a much more bigger hand. I remember recently I was in a matatu and they wanted to put a sambaza, the additional seat. And I said, tuheshimu sheria. And this guy I was like, who's this guy? Hawajui ni nani. Hata mimi mwenyewe, maybe I would have been NIS and maybe they just don't know. So you see, things like those, it gives us the mentality of, oh wait, I should be nafaa kuheshimu sheria somehow. So yes, I think citizens need to know more of their rights, because sometimes people are really harassed on these streets, especially young people. Remember kitambo, when you used to have dreadlocks and you're just a young guy walking on the street, you are guilty of drugs, you are guilty of everything, you're guilty of so many things. So I do believe it's very important for people to know their rights and to know them well, not just I know my rights, yeah.
On the issue that we've mentioned about Sambada, when you are in Nairobi, life seemed to be you can even cough and say things. I went to Narok, and I told myself that there's some matatus or some cars I'll never get into. So we got into one pro box. Those are the means of transport.
Yes.
These are
in chugs.
Yeah, sometimes you see like a pro box stops and 7 people are coming out and it is still full.
I was going to ask you, how many people in that pro box you got into?
We were 12.
Hey, blood of
and not just 12, we also had condo. Yeah, we had a ship. Someone just getting inside, and you can ask.
You and the animals.
Yeah, Kenyans who are watching, and this is an issue of public transport and the government.
He is transporting his property.
Yes. And it's justified because public transport needs to be addressed by the Kenyan government. You're talking about our rights. I tell people all the time, you may not really understand everything in the Constitution, but Article 43, that is something that we should be fighting for. It talks about health, it talks about access to water, not just water, but clean water of adequate quantity. It talks about food, it talks about education, it talks about housing. These are and social security.
Yeah.
If we can demand and say, these are our rights, why are children on the street? Why are children not in school? Why are mothers suffering when we are talking about social security? Because we are no longer talking for young people, Eric. We are the majority in this country and we're not going to beg. How can majority again be the people begging?
Yeah.
We are not the minority. So we're not talking for young Kenyans, we're talking for Kenyans because we are the majority. So the voices that we're representing here are the voices of Kenyans, not just of young people. So young people need to know their rights, and not just need to know, you need to demand that I need to live as a decent Kenyan, because you ask yourself again all the time, what makes you proud to be a Kenyan? If today you just to sleep and wake up tomorrow and find yourself in Botswana or in Eswatini, what will you miss about this country? You already hate our national anthem. We don't even sing it the way you used to sing it. Tata was saying it here yesterday. That passion of even talking about the pride of our country is no longer there. What makes us proud as citizens? These rights we need to fight for.
Would you say we don't love our country?
Oh, okay. Let me answer first as Charlotte. I love this country. I really do, guys. I cry for this country sometimes at night. And that's when I say the difference is when you're having a burden. And I believe situations and circumstances can make you hate your country. Recently, I was in Malawi and I wanted to come back home so fast. I was like,
why?
First, number one, I think Kenya was named the most warmest country or the most inviting country. Like, if I want to walk down the street and...
Wait a moment, who named them?
I don't know, some statistics. Because, let me ask you, Siti, ukitembea hapo chini, if you walk down the street and I don't know any direction, right? And I find Opondo there, Opondo will be like, absolutely, pita hivi. Some other countries maybe will take advantage of me.
In Nairobi.
In Nairobi or anywhere else. But mostly in Kenyans.
The other parts of the country where you will ask for direction, they'll kindly tell you it's around the corner, and believe me, it will not be around the corner.
They'll have said
there's a corner somewhere, but
they'll have said it warmly.
They would have said it warmly. They would have invited you.
Out of the kindness of their heart.
Even if they don't know where that place is, they'll give you directions.
So the answer is for health purposes.
Yeah.
So that you can exercise.
You can exercise, yes. But I believe people do love their country. They really do. Honestly, I believe our flag is the most beautiful flag.
I'm asking the question because I like your answer, but we all complain about not the country. This is how I ask the question. We complain about the political leadership. It's not the country we're complaining about.
Yes.
We actually don't have a problem with our country.
Yes, we don't. We don't. We really do love our country.
Yes.
We really do love our country.
But it is the manner in which our country is being managed and the people who are helping with the mismanagement of it that we have an issue with.
And the weird thing is, the people who are messing this country are like 4 or 5 people in a room. Imagine 5 people against, how many are we? 60 million. 57.
We're getting there.
Let's say 57, 58 million. Doesn't make sense to me that there are 5 people in a room that are just moving things, pins around that affect 57 million.
What doesn't
Asians.
get? What don't you understand?
I don't understand the level of impunity in your heart.
Ask yourself the question, are they getting away with it because they can, or is it because we let them?
We let them. That's why I don't know if there was like a law to chapa nyaunyo refu to just, because some things
you're a true Kenyan.
Like line corrupt. You're like, you
Uhuru Park.
You how many billion? Umeiba ngapi? Na uchapwe moja yako na ufungwe.
This discussion about the change that we need, let me go back again to the question of rights. What do you think you would see if Kenyans internalized their rights and understood, actually, this is my right? And right means I don't have to be afraid. This is something that not only I should expect, this is something that I must. That's what a right is. It's not an if and a but, it is a must.
Yeah.
I must go to a hospital and be able to get treatment.
Yeah.
Must.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I have a child, that child must get an education.
Yes.
That's a must. If I'm traveling on the road, I don't have to be looking for ways in which to avoid potholes. That road must be the road must be roadworthy. No. And the vehicle that I am traveling in, all these things that we complain about, if it's something we don't want, it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Now, let me go back to the earlier question. Do you think we are getting there, or do you think we see the need of actually getting there?
We are seeing the need of getting there. See, what Kenyans right now need to do, even as we talk to the public and have these conversations, we still need to instill in Kenyans the need of patriotism, understanding that we can love our country, we can hate those in power, but we still have to love the country and bring it back where it belongs, because these people are in power. I mean, after some time they leave the offices, just as we said here last time, and other people will come to the office. When we love our country, then even if we understand these rights and we do not love this country, it is still going to be a problem. So we still have to love this country and value it, and know that so many people are even finding just to have a country like the one that we have. I know we have all our challenges as a nation, but imagine over 40-something tribes, and we've managed at some point to learn how to tolerate each other. Right now, we are here now in this kind of spaces. There are countries that I understand you go to and people cannot even see eye to eye. Even in some places, how people go to schools and everything. So we've gotten this far as Kenyans because of the sweat and the blood of other people. We're not going to let it go. So we have to fight more in a better way, but also have to understand that we cannot keep using the olden day tactics to solve the modern day challenges. We have now to design new ways of dealing with the corrupt, and even these leaders, we must find better ways of dealing with them, because it is clearly they are outsmarting us in the games that we are thinking that we can manage.
Think for a second, a political rally and a campaign period in Kenya, and there are these aspirants who have lined up this Kenyan currency change to dole out to people. And they wait and there's no one coming to take the money. They wait and there's no one coming to take the money. What do you think would happen?
There'll have to be good leaders then. It will change. They'll have to have change then. Wakifika hapo like, oh wait, our tactics no longer work, then itabidi we do the right thing then after that. Because if the old, because I think, I was telling my mom this, if Moi ruled in this country for 24 years, I'm 24 years, I can't even fathom that. So people were conditioned not to even know that you had a right. Unanyamaza tu. My mom was telling me they used to sing those Nyayo songs while from schools, right? You just sing. Maybe you knew that was your right to sing and nothing else. So the conditioning of you don't have rights, you should keep quiet. And then what Gen Zs did shifted the mindset of the country. I think the first time our parents thought we were mad, I remember they thought I was a little bit crazy of what I was doing. They're like, there's one time I was like, don't go to the streets. I've told you, don't go to the streets. And we are like, guys, I'm already here. What are you saying? Niko hapa tayari navuta tear gas. Guys, it was my first time to get tear gas. First time, I was like, hey,
how did you feel?
How did Raila feel all this time? All that time with tear gas. But it was crazy. I shouldn't, please don't do tear gas.
You know, the simple questions I'm asking are for a very specific purpose. Huh?
Yeah.
it's a question that we should ask ourselves. See, we make statements, there are these platitudes that we repeat, and there's this mantra that we also keep echoing, and the message we send to each other. And it's like we're trying to build a certain momentum. And yet, the very notion of doing right does not require somebody else. It actually requires you.
Yeah. Yes.
And again, the question rises, are people willing to do right?
Yeah.
And actually now it brings us back to the question you are asking, and the answer is that it is your right to have good leaders.
Yes, it is.
We have the right to take the power from them and return it back to us. In fact, I say all the time, whenever leaders come in our presence, they should be the ones saying that I'm honored to meet you. Because after every 5 years, they are jobless, they come back to seek jobs from us.
Can we have something to remove them, Mheshimiwa?
Yeah, because why? Even just people running is honorable. Why honorable? Most of them are horrible people, not honorable people. We've seen all the things that they're doing to people. So we have the power to take it from them and ask them important questions and even tell them, you are not going to implement this without involving us. Please, we do not elect you because you are smarter than us. We elected you because you just needed a representative to go there for us. And the Constitution is very clear. For example, like who is a member of parliament and who is an MCA. Counties are now struggling because the positions of MCAs have been left to former bodyguards, retired, whoever. And now it has been seen like a position that does not really need very smart people. You read our constitution is the position that needs some of the smartest people to help counties discover their full potential.
And take it seriously.
Yes.
So there have been many calls recently to drain the swamp, essentially, right? And just start from ground zero. And I often ask myself, do we know unequivocally, we know who a proper right leader should be? Like you said, you don't need, it's not just anybody who should come and lead, for goodness sake. We're talking about leading with resources. We're talking about leading people. We're talking about taking a country from here to there. It's not your normal run-of-the-mill everyday stuff. It's you have to be really, really serious about it. And then we talk about the power of the vote, that we can make all of this, we can say all of these things, and we can do, but when you go and you stand before that ballot, the decision that you make then is probably the most important, that will curtail all of this protesting and that we hear about. But how do you know? Are we aware, really, of the one person, the man, the woman, who we should actually put in that position? We know what the position is, but then do we see a Charles? Do we see an Eric? Do we see a Charlotte? Do we see Nick? Do we see and say, this is the person that if I draw a line between the person and the attribute, then I'm connected? Do we?
I think in most cases, sometimes yes, we know the attributes, but I also want to take it back and say situations give birth to people. Different conditions. I mean, like we know Mandamanos came, and we know who the people, Kenyans could see the people who are rising and to be there for them. COVID times, we could already even see those who are standing up in the community during different things. But what is very important, that even if this person comes up, because I know each community, and by community I don't mean the tribe, but I mean where you come from, we all know the people who are working day and night for you, the people that you call whenever there's a problem in your community, are the people that you refer to. I need a scholarship for my kid. Oh, this hospital, this, oh, this. How is it that again, when these same people run for political offices, then you tell them, where's your 7 billion?
It's because
we were told to be a member of parliament in Kenya. How much do you need now? About 26 million. So we're going to get this money. And again, Kenyans need to ask that important question that City asked here. Ask yourself, someone willing to use about 24 million shillings to run for a seat that maybe, let's say, a by-election, that even all your salary will not add up to that. What is it that they are seeing that we are not seeing? Because you cannot invest blindly.
Because they're seeing tenders I can get. Because they're seeing guzzlers I can run with. Yeah, because they're seeing so many things that maybe we want, but we can't just say that we want it.
Theft.
Yeah, exactly.
Opportunities for theft.
Exactly.
Whose you guys have taken up as your responsibility to create civic awareness, but should it be your responsibility?
As I said before, not everyone is passionate and has a burden for this country, and that is fine. So I think when Opondo and I come into this with simplifying, we're making it easier for you. But I do believe, even as Du has said, that we are slowly going there. We are slowly but surely. So hopefully, I think 2027, hopefully Kenyans won't be voting for people who are murderers and thieves to their elective positions, either as MP or I think it will change. I have so much hope that it will change. And for us, even as we do this, there's someone who's receiving that information, and that person will tell another person, and the other person will tell another person. So basically, you're creating a web in Kenya where young people are informed, and this is another shift from a generation that was conditioned that you don't actually, your voice doesn't matter in this country. Yeah.
Of course.
Yep.
Whose responsibility?
It is our civic duty as citizens.
Absolutely.
All of us have to be part of this, because if we do not do it, someone will come and change the narrative and do it in their own particular way. You saw what happened during the outsering of Rigathi Gachagua, and how the public participation sessions were being run. It was like the answer was this in this. The answer was, so there are places where it was very clearly
Start
no.
with the answer.
Yes, then other people it was a yes. So remember the conversation we had here last time about public participation. To me, that public participation has to be designed in a way that is really pro-people. Because it is only through such kind of sessions that this kind of talks we are having will be achieved. So you talk about public participation, we want the public to be there. When you talk about taxes, for example, we want to get a time when, before anything is imposed on us, we'll be told, look, this is what we collected from you as Nairobi County last the fiscal year. This is what we collected from you as a Nandi County, and this is how we used it, and this is now why we are asking for more. We are asking for more because we want to build, or we want to increase this and this and that. Yes.
I have a question.
Accountability.
Just a quick question. When you say that civic responsibility is, of course, to the government as well, but don't you think it's also to us, kama mimi kukataa kukaa kwa sambaza ina matatu? Or for me, especially during this Christmas festival season, when I hear my aunt speaking ill of City's tribe or something like that, then I can say, oh wait, that is wrong. So don't you think, as much as the government is playing its responsibility of giving us accountability on what they have done with our money, pia sisi tusikae tu mangombe hapo and decide, what's happening there. We should also say, also me on my part, by the police, me, I'm not giving you a bribe.
Very good.
I'm on the wrong side, twende kotini.
Very good.
Eric, can I answer that maybe with a question and also to the audience?
Yes.
It'll be very interesting. Imagine yourself, you are at Kencom, it is raining, you're heading to Kawangware.
Yeah.
There's only one bus available.
Yeah.
And you have to get home. It is raining, there's no shelter.
It's 9 p.m.
It is 9 p.m.
There's no any other bus.
There's no any other bus. I use public transport in Kenya. I know the mess that is there. Sometimes I found myself in a situation where I'm saying, I want to do this, then I find myself doing it. So I'm still insisting that the government has still to play its role. It is either by boosting the public transport or making the transport, this sector favorable for more investors to come in the
Very well said. Okoh Opondo, civic educator. Charlotte Kibet, also civic educator and founder of The Big Talk. They've been our guests. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Have a lovely Tuesday. See you again tomorrow. It's 2 after 10.